trigger the full scale of sanctions that have been discussed for weeks now. That's according to a senior administration official. And discussions about the final package expected to be on the agenda at the virtual G7 meeting scheduled in the morning. And as we have been saying, the worldwide resources of CNN are there. Clarissa Ward just said we have crews spread out throughout Ukraine. You see some of them there up on your screen. That is just a small part of who we have there on our breaking news. Frederick Pleitgen is in Belgorod. That is a region of Russia. Nick Payton-Walsh is in Odessa. That is in Ukraine. Clarissa Ward also in Ukraine in Kharkiv. Caitlin Collins is at the White House in Washington, D.C. And Matthew Chance is live for us in Kyiv. Matthew was the first on the air when those series of explosions were happening live here on this very program. Jim Sciutto is in Lviv, Ukraine for us, and Jill Doherty is in Moscow. We appreciate you joining us. That is the very latest for now. Excuse me, producers, where are we going to now? We want to get to Matthew Chance now, live for us in Kyiv. Again, this is all happening in the moment. Matthew, welcome back to the program here. You heard a series of explosions just moments before. Clarissa heard them where she is in Kharkiv. You were in Kyiv. You said you were also seeing helicopters. What is going on from your vantage point?
Well, all of that is still going on, and we're still hearing periodic thuds as those explosions sort of send shockwaves through this capital city of Ukraine. But there's also been an announcement from the Ukrainian president. He's posted this within the past few minutes on social media. Basically, a statement, a video statement, saying that he is introducing martial law to Ukraine. He said he's had a conversation. Let me just read this through. It says, look, Russia has conducted strikes on our military infrastructure and our border guards. So that's something new, because we knew that the military infrastructure had been targeted, but the border guards as well. We didn't know that. Now the president of Ukraine is confirming that those people have also been a target of these cruise missile attacks and other potential artillery attacks and things like that. Their blasts have been heard in many cities. We're introducing martial law on the whole territory of the country. A minute ago, he said, and this was like 5 minutes ago when he made this. A minute ago, I had a conversation with President Biden. The US has already started uniting international support. Today, each of you, and he turns now to the people of Ukraine, today, each of you, stay calm, stay at home if you can. We're working, he says, the army is working, the whole sector of defense and security is working. He ends with this little simple message: don't panic, we're strong, we're ready for everything, and we will win over everybody because we are Ukraine. Obviously, that was a statement that was made in Ukrainian, so it's been translated for me into English. But, again, that declaration of martial law, the fact that we are hearing multiple explosions in various parts of the Ukrainian capital, from the south to the east to the north, specifically targeting apparently air defenses in the country, for what reason we don't know, presumably to take out those defenses so that Russia has undisputed air superiority in the skies, not just over Kiev, but over the whole country. And all that points to, along with the other reports we've had from around the country of more Russian military activity taking place, whether it's in the east or in the south or elsewhere, points to the idea that this is just the start of a much broader Russian military incursion, if not full-scale invasion of this country. Don.
All right, Matthew, I want you to stand by. If you start to hear any explosions or strikes, get back to us. We'll get to you immediately. As you heard Matthew Chance there saying that the President Zelensky has introduced martial law to Ukraine. This is a full statement from Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. He says, "Dear Ukrainian citizens, this morning President Putin announced a special military operation in Donbass. Russia conducted airstrikes in our military infrastructure, on our military infrastructure and our border guards. There were blasts heard in many cities of Ukraine. We're introducing martial law on the whole territory of our country. A minute ago, I had a conversation with President Biden. The U.S. have already started uniting international support. Today, each of you should keep calm. Stay at home if you can. We are working. The Army is working. The whole sector of defense and security is working. No panic. We are strong. We are ready for everything. We will win over everybody because we are Ukraine. The president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, also ending his phone call with the president of the United States, Joe Biden, just moments ago. We'll get to Caitlin in a minute with that. Matthew Chance, explosions, go on.
Hey, Don, no, it's not explosions. There's been an air raid siren just suddenly. Oh, here it is. There you are. That's an air raid siren. Several of them going off here in the center of the Ukrainian capital. Now, whether that's them just testing it, I don't think so, though, given the situation we currently find ourselves in, or whether Ukrainian radar has picked up approaching aircraft or missile attack inside the center of the city, I don't know. But this adds another ominous, alarming feature to what has been an ominous and alarming day so far. Now, in terms of the explosions we've been hearing, they've subsided for the past couple of minutes, I would say, although I don't know whether you can call a couple of minutes without explosions, them subsiding. But, what is happening right now is unclear, but, we are anticipating that this could be just the start of something much bigger. I want to point to some traffic over there, because while we hear those sirens, you can imagine how panicked the people of this city are, being shaken out of their beds at these thundering explosions that have been taking place all around it. I don't know whether we can see that traffic over there, the car headlights coming down that main road. Can you see that? Yeah, we can see that. Well, that traffic is all heading in one direction. And it's absolutely packed, that main road is, and that direction is west. And so you can see the residents of Kiev seem to be getting in their cars, listening to those explosions, accompanied by these air raid sirens now, and driving as fast as they can to the west, towards the safer areas, if you like, of the country, perhaps towards Poland, which is 3 or 4 or 5 hours drive from here. But you can see it's almost a constant stream of traffic, the residents of this country moving out towards the west, the opposite direction of Russia. It is an absolutely chaotic scenes there on the road, and of course with that additional sort of alarm that is being additional alarm that's now blaring through the center of the city as well, it does add an additional layer of tension, I want to say, but it's more than that. It's fear. It's fear. People are frightened. I can see people down on the street down there on the square, right under this hotel. We're not going to pan to it, but they're running across the square, running for cover as they listen to those sirens. And there really is a great deal of cautious anticipation about what will come now.
Matthew, so no indication, no one has given reason for the air raid sirens that we have been listening to here on CNN for the past several minutes.
No official reason has been given, but of course, we have been experiencing for the past several hours airborne raids at various locations in the city. We're told they are cruise missile attacks. One of the reasons that those attacks seem to be targeting the air defences may be to make sure that the Russians keep or maintain strong air superiority. And one of the reasons they might do that is because they might be intending to fly aerial, manned aerial aircraft, regular aircraft, to sort of more, pinpoint target particular buildings, particular assets, air assets, or whatever other military command and control assets they want to in this city and also elsewhere as well. Look, I mean, I don't know why those air raid sirens have been blaring out for the past couple of minutes. It was a surprise. It was a shock to us, as I expect it was a shock to most other residents of this city. It may have just been a practice in case there are air raids in the future. But I mean, given what we're currently witnessing, I mean, we can't rule out the possibility that that the Ukrainian authorities are warning the people right now about possible more air raids in the minutes or in the hours to come.
I think the possibility you just said, you just read my mind. The possibility they want people to know how serious it is, and it is to see people driving on the highways or interstates. There is quite a juxtaposition as to what we have been seeing and hearing earlier, and the reporting from you, Matthew.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you know, when you couple that with the state of emergency that was imposed from midnight last night, that's been now upgraded substantially to martial law that's been imposed. Now, I don't know what the terms of that martial law are, but presumably it's a suspension of all regular sort of civil laws in this country, in this emergency that Ukraine is currently finding itself in as it comes under a multi-pronged attack. From every official that has given a statement so far publicly, they've said, we will resist this. In fact, the Ukrainian defense minister just put out a statement a few moments ago, just before those air raid sirens went off, saying that, you know, the military is fighting back against the enemy. They've always been insistent that they will be able to not just resist a Russian invasion, but also to push the Russians back, because they've been fighting Russians, they say, for the past 8 years in the trenches, in the streets of eastern Ukraine, where that brutal war, which cost the lives of 14,000 people, has been taking place and has been continuing at a lower level right up until now. But clearly what Ukraine is now facing is something very different. This is not trench warfare. This is not fighting against a proxy rebel force with a few Russian officers perhaps in charge. This looks like the full might of one of the world's most powerful air forces, or militaries at least, in a multi-pronged attack on this country to overwhelm it as quickly as possible.
And Matthew, it looks like what U.S. sources are saying, a full-scale Russian invasion on Ukraine. Clarissa Ward is with us now from Kharkiv. Clarissa, you are witnessing something that is taking place right in front of your very eyes on the streets. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I think this, Don, really speaks to the sort of desperation of this moment. We just see a small group of people, and I'm hoping you can see them on our shot here. A small group of people have gathered in the main square, and they are kneeling and praying. Because right now there is truly a sense of having no idea what is coming down the pipeline, what is in store for the people of Ukraine in the coming hours and the coming days. And it's freezing cold here. So to see these people kneeling on the cold stone in prayer is honestly, it's very moving, Don. And I think it speaks to the state of ordinary Ukrainians here who have done absolutely nothing to deserve this, who have no quarrel with Russia, who have no desire for war or conflict, who are not engaged with the geopolitics underpinning all of this, and yet who will ultimately be the ones to bear the brunt of, as what Matthew called it, this multi-pronged major attack by one of the world's most sophisticated militaries on a sovereign, independent nation. We've heard from the mayor here, Don, who's told people to stay at home. It does feel very quiet on the streets today. It's early, so it's a little difficult to call whether that's because people are heeding that directive to stay at home. Schools are closed today, according to the mayor's post. Also, people are being told not to go to work. They have been told that public transport is working, though. They've also opened this public bomb shelter that, you know, I think probably everyone here wishes they would never have to use. There's no sign that people are going there at the moment, but it is open and there are police there. And so now the question becomes, is this limited to the strikes or the nature of the strikes that we've been hearing for the last few hours? Or do we start to see some kind of a ground incursion as well? Because as you've seen, talking to my colleague Fred Pleiken, as you've seen from those satellite images, there is a massive buildup of weaponry, troops, armor, personnel just beyond that border. That border is just over 20 miles from here. Satellite images showing troops 10 miles beyond that. And so there's a very real fear here that there could be even more coming along for these people. And I think that's why you're seeing those people just behind me getting to their knees and praying as they wait to see what today will bring, Don.
Yeah, let's hope that they don't have to use those shelters, as you said, Clarissa. Clarissa, I want you to stand by. I want to get to the White House now and CNN's Caitlin Collins. Caitlin, earlier the president released a statement calling it an unprovoked and unjustified attack and that was premeditated war that will bring a catastrophic loss of human suffering. He spoke moments ago to the president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky. I understand that call is over and you have a readout on it. What do you have?
Yeah, Don, they just got off the phone. And this is a readout that we should note is in the words of President Biden himself. Often we get these readouts from a National Security Council spokesman when he has a call with another world leader. These are the words of President Biden, so I'm going to read them in full. He says, President Zelensky just reached out to me tonight and we just finished speaking. I condemned this unprovoked and unjustified attack by Russian military forces. I briefed him on the steps that we are taking to rally international condemnation, including tonight at the United Nations Security Council. President Biden says that President Zelensky asked me to call on the leaders of the world to speak out clearly against President Putin's flagrant aggression and to stand with the people of Ukraine. Tomorrow, I will be meeting with the leaders of the G7, and the United States and our allies and partners will be imposing severe sanctions on Russia. We will continue to provide support and assistance to Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. Of course, Don, we wait to see what those sanctions are exactly. We have been talking about them for weeks with White House officials. We know that they are seeking to go after Russian banks, financial institutions. Export controls are an option. Going after President Putin himself is an option, according to President Biden. It remains to be seen exactly what is spelled out in these sanctions when President Biden addresses the country tomorrow at noon on what we are seeing happening in Ukraine right now. But obviously a grave situation, and obviously this call coming as President Zelensky is dealing with a city that is under attack, as Matthew Chance was just reporting. He was on the phone with President Biden tonight, so we will see President Biden tomorrow in person speaking about what has happened overnight.
Caitlin Collins at the White House, two presidents, President of Ukraine, the President of the United States, on the phone, talking late into the evening here in the early morning hours of Ukraine. Caitlin, thank you very much. Stand by. We'll get back to Caitlin. I want to get to CNN's Jim Sciutto. Jim is live for us in Lviv, Ukraine. He has been listening to Caitlin. Jim, I'm not sure if you heard me. I read the response, the address, I should say, by Vladimir Putin to the people of Ukraine, urging them to stay strong. Do not panic. We are strong. We are ready for everything. We will win over everybody because we are Ukraine. We are Ukraine. Again, that's from Vladimir Zelensky. The President of the United States talking about the call, saying that they will continue, we will continue, the United States, to provide support and assistance to Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. The two gentlemen just got off the phone a short time ago. You heard Caitlin's readout on it. What do you say?
Well, let me give you what the latest U.S. intelligence assessment is of what we're seeing and hearing now on the ground in Ukraine. First of all, the U.S. assessment is that those explosions we have heard in Kyiv and in Odessa are the result of missile strikes by Russia. The explosions that we're hearing in Kharkiv in the northeastern part of the country, which is a bit closer to the Russian border, those part of an artillery barrage. And prior to tonight, we had seen those mobile artillery units lining up there on the Russian side of the border. The U.S. assessment remains that an air missile campaign would soften the battlefield for a ground invasion with the intention of crippling this country, a good half to two-thirds of the country, based on, again, the U.S. assessment that is what is being looked for right now, right? The ground forces coming across. Just one note about those sirens we've been hearing in Kyiv. The U.S. assessment has been that the targets of the Russian aerial campaign, a shock and awe campaign, it's been described to me by U.S. military officials, the targets would largely be military targets, things like airfields, aircraft, and as Matthew Chance was noting, there is an airfield quite close to the capital, which is a Ukrainian military airfield, but also the possibility of hitting infrastructure. It was the U.S. assessment that Russia would not attempt to bomb cities indiscriminately. However, with this important caveat that from the U.S. perspective, Russian targeting is not perfect, and therefore, if the target is X, say a military field, but those bombs from the air or missiles from afar or shells from artillery don't hit that target, they might strike civilian targets as well. that's been told to me a number of times repeatedly, just in terms of everyone's own safety here, is that the U.S. does not have great confidence in Russian targeting, and that may help explain the air sirens that you're seeing in Kyiv right now as a precaution, even if the bulk of the targets are military or the possibility of infrastructure. I do have, we were talking, Caitlin was talking about the intention of making sanctions and condemnation of this invasion a ally-wide response. We do now have a statement from the British Prime Minister in just a short time ago, which says, quote, "I am appalled by the horrific events in Ukraine, and I have spoken to President Zelensky to discuss next steps. President Putin has chosen a path of bloodshed and destruction by launching this unprovoked attack on Ukraine. The UK and our allies will respond decisively." I'm told that in conjunction with the U.S., that the UK will announce its own round of sanctions today as well to punish, really, because the question of deterrence, Don, is gone, right? This is starting. So these are now punitive sanctions. So the expectation is, as the plan had been, allies act together on this in response.
Jim, I want you to stand by. Very important. You said so far, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said no sighting of ground forces, Russian ground forces yet, correct?
To this point, from at least the people I talked to, I have not heard confirmation of that. But of course, we also have a lot of eyes on the ground here who are watching as well. The moment I have confirmation of that, I'm going to bring it to you, Don.
All right. Thank you very much, Jim Sciutto. I want to get back now to Matthew Chance and Kyiv. Matthew, I understand you have some new video for us, some new pictures. What do you have?
Stand by. Hey, Don, that's right. Well, look, I mean, a couple of things, a couple of breaking things, actually. But let me just get to those images that I know we've got still pictures of. These are attacks, the explosions that took place at Borispil Airport, a short distance from here, just to the east over here on the outskirts of Kiev. It's the main international airport. A couple of stills photographs sent to me by the president's office saying that there were 5 explosions at least at that airport, obviously targeting command and control systems and various other things. There's a surface-to-air missile battery that's there as well, which may also have been attacked. There's also another airport that's been attacked to the north of the city, which is a military airbase and where fighter jets are based. That seems to have been pounded as well by multiple volleys of cruise missiles fired from Russia. But within the past few seconds, we've just had a statement from the border force of Ukraine, and they've posted this officially now. The border force of Ukraine say that their forces on the Ukrainian border, obviously to the north of the country, so bordering Belarus, have come under attack. The border forces of Ukraine have come under attack. This is according to them, their official posting, by Russian troops and by Belarusian troops as well. Troops from Belarus as well. So a combined force of Russian and Belarusian troops have apparently attacked, according to the border forces of this country, those border outposts that control the northern border of the country. That's obviously massively significant because it's not just Russia, it seems, according to this statement, that is involved in this assault on Ukraine. But it may also be, if this is accurate, and this is what the border forces in this country say, it may be Belarus that's also joined with its ally in Russia to take part in this assault, this attack on Ukraine. It's also significant for another reason as well, which is that northern border with Ukraine and Belarus is not far from here. It's a very short distance from Kiev. And of course, over the past couple of weeks, there have been extremely big joint military exercises between the Russians and the Belarusians inside Belarus. I know our Fred Pleitgen actually went there to see those military drills take place between those two allied countries. The big concern, of course, is that these weren't really military drills. They were just preparations for a ground assault on Kiev. And the fact that, I mean, I'm not saying that's happening, but the fact that there has now been apparently an attack on Ukrainian border guards by a joint Russian and Belarusian force, it again opens up that possibility and is another front of concern that we have to now have about what exactly is going on in Ukraine right now, what Russia is playing at, what their objectives are, and what will be the next step. You know, we do seem to be looking at a general broad assault on all fronts in a multi-pronged way, from the air, from the sea, on the land, by one of the most sophisticated militaries in the world on this country. And this latest development, again, is another worrying and ominous sign of what may be to come. Don.
All right, I want you to stand by because we're getting some new information and video that will come in shortly, so stand by. But I just want you to take us through the newest information that we have, those still pictures that we have from you, Matthew. This is at the airport. Take us through this image that we're seeing now. It's from the Ukrainian president's office.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just somebody at the office that sent me these, but the pictures aren't of the president's office, of course. They're of Borispil Airport, according to the person that sent them to me. And I'm looking at them now on my telephone because they were texted to me, and they're sort of like little mushroom clouds, aren't they, on the horizon? Obviously, that's the aftermath of what we now know are cruise missile attacks. At least 5 explosions, we're told, by Ukrainian officials at that main international airport. But 5 is a very small number when you consider how many explosions we've seen around this city. And of course, you know, I think I've counted more like 20. We've been hearing big loud bangs in various locations in the city, and we've heard air raid sirens going off repeatedly, you know, apparently warning of some kind of, you know, further air attack as well. But obviously extremely tense. The Ukrainian leader, the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, has declared martial law, but he's also urged Ukrainian citizens not to panic at this stage. The defense minister of the country has issued a statement as well, saying the military is fighting back effectively against the airport. I've just been handed something that might be a bit more information. Yeah, so that's the same thing as I was just talking to you about troops, apparently military vehicles entering Ukraine from Belarus. CNN has now witnessed through live stream video troops in a column of military vehicles entering Ukraine from a border crossing with Ukraine. The live stream video, and I'm reading this alert that we've got.
We want to get to that video, Matthew, so if you'll stand by. And the person we want to go to for that, because it's closer to this, thank you, Matthew, closer to the situation is our Frederick Pleitgen. Frederick, thank you for joining us this evening. Frederick, listen, Matthew said partially what we had here. Through live stream, troops atop a column of military vehicles entering Ukraine from a border crossing with Belarus. It was taken in Sinkivka, Ukraine, crossing the border to Belarus. Column was seen entering Ukraine around 6:48 this morning. You have video, you have the information on this. Take us through it, please. Frederick? Okay, apparently we don't have Frederick, but let me just read to you what we have here, and I'll read it again as we're looking at these images. What you're looking at on your screen, this is through live stream. If you can put the video up. Are you there, Frederick?
Yeah, aber die ist doch alles angeschlossen.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Frederick. So we have these images up there through a live stream.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Video. Take us through what we're seeing.
So it's live stream video. What you can see on that live stream video, Don, is you can see several tanks and armored vehicles cross the border, through a large amount of time, for at least a minute or a minute and a half, for all those vehicles going across the border. And then we have that information that is that very border crossing between Ukraine and Belarus, and that these troops are now coming in from Belarus. And it really is remarkable because I was actually with those very troops just last week when they were conducting large-scale exercises together with Russian forces inside Belarus. And the possibility of an invasion from Belarus was always something that the U.S. had warned about. And I asked that very question, Don, to the Belarusian strongman Alexander Lukashenko, just to give you an idea of some of the lies and the misinformation that have been spread ahead of this. And he laughed at me. He said, look, do you really believe that we are going to invade Ukraine? And obviously now, only about a week, a little more later, we're seeing that apparently is exactly what's going on. It's still unclear at this point in time whether these are Russian and Belarusian forces. It could very well be the case because these two militaries work very closely with one another, and they've been practicing with one another for a large amount of time. And just to give you an idea, Don, about the possible size of the force that we're talking about. There were about 30,000 just Russian troops inside Belarus, allegedly, for those drills. And then, of course, you also have the entire Belarusian army as well. So certainly, this is an extremely dangerous development that we're looking at, and certainly broadens also the assault that is going on against Ukraine at this point in time, because, of course, these are two very formidable forces. Belarus, of course, a very small country, but nevertheless with a very powerful military that now seem to be crossing the border, as we can see there on that video, into Ukraine. And as Matthew was pointing out, the fastest way for an invasion force to get to the Ukrainian capital of Kiev is exactly from Belarus. There's a pretty new road that actually the Ukrainians built to try and increase traffic, to try and increase trade with Belarus when the relations were still better. It really is a very quick way to get to the capital of Kiev. So this is definitely a very worrying development that we're seeing here. And of course, on top of that, we have to keep in mind that there is also this large Russian force that's on Russian territory, where there are obviously a lot of people who believe, as Jim Sciutto was pointing out, that some of these airstrikes that we've been seeing, the missile strikes, where we've heard them launch from here, from this very location in Belgorod, that those are there to soften up the possible the battlefield for a possible ground invasion that could come. And you know, one of the things that we saw in the past couple of days, as we've been roaming around the border here between Ukraine and Russia, is we saw forces that certainly looked like Russian special forces, and those in many cases would be the first to go into an area to then set the stage for a larger invasion of ground forces, of some of the many armored forces that we've also seen here. So certainly some worrying developments, and the CCTV video definitely remarkable to see that apparently there are, on a large scale now, foreign forces invading Ukraine. Don.
Oh, Frederick, I want you to respond to this, because we're getting information that Russian President Vladimir Putin and Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko spoke by phone Thursday. Belarusian state news agency Belta reported the morning Russia launched military strikes against Ukraine. At about 5 a.m. today, a telephone conversation took place between the presidents of Belarus and Russia, during which Vladimir Putin informed his Belarusian counterpart about the situation on the border with Ukraine and in Donbass. Delta cited the Belarusian presidential press service as saying. So this sort of bolsters what you were saying about those troops and whether they're Belarusian and what is exactly going on. The two men spoke not long ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it certainly bolsters that. And one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that both Putin and Lukashenko, they are very, very close to one another. Definitely, Alexander Lukashenko, after some of the protests that happened in Belarus in 2020, is pretty much dependent on Vladimir Putin to actually stay in office. And one of the other questions I actually asked Lukashenko last week when we were at those large-scale military drills where he showed up is whether or not he would actually support a move by Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine. The very question, the very scenario that we're seeing right now. And he simply said that the two countries obviously are very close to one another, and that he would support Vladimir Putin in pretty much anything that he does, that the two countries would support one another because they are in a military union, as he put it. Now, whether or not Belarusian forces are also among that invasion force that's currently apparently moving into Ukraine, that's something that we have yet to confirm, but certainly the Russians would not be able to do that if they didn't have the permission of Alexander Lukashenko, which in any case they would get because he's dependent on Vladimir Putin, but also with the aid of the Belarusian military as well, to use staging areas within Belarus, to use military bases within Belarus, and also to use transport within Belarus as well. So, you know, one of the things that the Biden administration said a couple of weeks ago, they said that Belarus would pay a very heavy price if it were to aid Russia in invading Ukraine, or if an invasion were launched from Belarusian territory. Certainly that seems to be the case. And I think also, Don, the other thing is that it's coming to light as we're reporting here just how big this invasion is, just how widespread it is. If you look at the amount of kilometers, of miles that Ukrainian forces now need to defend against what appear to be two armies right now, thousands of miles of border. I traveled part of that just today, and it was a very, very big distance that you need to travel. This is something that where you really see Ukraine essentially getting bullied by Russia and with Belarus obviously in many ways being the accomplice here. It certainly is. It's hard to overstate just in what a difficult position Ukraine is in right now with that extra caveat now of those forces moving in from Belarus. Don.
All right. Thank you, Frederick Pleiken. I appreciate that. I want someone who can help us sort of get a synopsis of everything here to break it all down for us. Steve Hall is joining us. He's the former chief of Russian operations for the CIA. Just as you've been sitting here very patiently for the last couple of minutes, you have seen the live stream of troops arriving through the border of Belarus. The president of Belarus, Vladimir Putin, speaking, Zelensky and Biden speaking. There's a lot blasts at the airport. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
What's your assessment of what you're seeing? Is this a bigger scale operation than anticipated?
Well, Don, where we are right now, I think, is sort of literally in the fog of war. I mean, we're hours into this, and so there's a lot that remains clear. But I think there's a lot of things that are also actually unclear. But there's a lot of things that are becoming more clear very quickly. I think there may have been a question initially as to whether or not Putin was going to go basically simply into the Donbas region or into the parts of the Donbas region which are controlled by his proxies. That has, of course, begun to happen. We have seen the softening of military targets in Ukraine in preparation for that. But the thing that got my attention most was what's happening further north and west on the Belarusian border, because it could have been a scenario whereby Putin may have gone into the Donbas region and said, OK, I've got what President Biden is referring to the beginning of sanctions. So if I just go as far as the Donbas and then stop, will it end well for me? Will there just be light sanctions, or will there just be these beginnings of sanctions? But it's very difficult to maintain that position and say, I'm only going into Donbas, when you see not only the forces that are surrounding Ukraine, but now you've got we have reporting of forces coming in from Belarus into Ukraine. So this is no longer just about the Donbas. This is something much larger now. And I think that's also what's triggered the much more robust, we would hope, economic and other types of sanctions against Russia. So there may have been an initial thought that it was going to be limited, perhaps, but now that it's happening all over Ukraine, I think it's become more and more clear that it's more of a worst-case scenario. He's actually going in from multiple different angles if what we're seeing in Belarus is any indication.
Do you think that this galvanizes the NATO or U.S., our allies or people around the country who are opposed to what is happening in Ukraine? I'm not sure beyond very heavy sanctions, what can be done. But does this at least help on that front, that it brings people together in order to try to at least limit what's happening?
I think at least psychologically, I think in the West, we have this tendency to be always optimistic and always thinking, I mean, you hear it from our politicians. We're not closing the door on diplomacy. Despite the fact that Vladimir Putin it's really not speeches he's making. He's ranting about how Ukraine shouldn't even exist. And yet, in spite of that, we have a lot of people saying, well, maybe it'll all work out in the end. I think now at least we begin to see that it's probably not all going to work out in the end, and that stronger action needs to be taken. One of the issues, however, is that I think Vladimir Putin learned very early on and figured out early on that, by the words of the president of our country and other NATO nations, there are going to be no boots on the ground in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. So what does that leave us with? It only leaves us essentially with the strongest of sanctions that we can come up with. And we don't know whether Putin is going to react to that or not yet.
We've had former secretaries of state, former defense secretaries on who really alluded to Putin's state of mind, especially after the pandemic and so on and so forth. In his speech, where he says that he was conducting a special military operation and its goal was to protect the people that have been subjected to abuse and genocide in Kiev regime for 8 years, also saying that this was a special military operation just for Donbas. But he's been repeating these baseless claims of genocide in the country's Donbas region, and then also saying that he wants to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. What is this all about? Because none of it's making sense. Even earlier in the week, giving justification for an invasion by using a history that does not exist of Russia and the Soviet Union.
Yeah. Again, Don, I think this is sort of one of the problems that we have here in the West, is looking through a Western lens and trying to make sense out of what Vladimir Putin says.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. It does to him, though. And it does, in some sense, to the Russians that he's speaking to. I think the largest target for that ranting speech that he gave the other night was the Russian people, to sort of prepare them for this. In the West, we see this as a transparent mechanism by which he's going to set up a provocation in the Donbass and then say, I've got to go save those poor Russians that I myself, by the way, issued a bunch of passports to not too many years ago to make them Russians. But now I got to go in and save them. The thing that concerns me most is not the demilitarization part of it, but it's the denazization part of it. And the reason that concerns me is because whenever Vladimir Putin or anybody in the Kremlin talks about how Kiev is run by Nazis, he's talking about the government. He's not just talking about the Donbass. He's not just talking about trying to help these make-believe countries that he helped create in Donetsk and Luhansk. What he's talking about when he talks about Nazis is he's talking about Kiev, and that could foretell a sort of decapitation type of operation where you get a lot of military stuff going on, and then he sends folks in to basically take care of the government.
Quickly, because I need to get to other stuff, but I want to ask you, as you were listening to the sirens, the airstrike sirens going off in Kyiv, I heard you, I saw you sit up and take notice, and wow. What were you thinking when you heard that?
What I was thinking was there have been so many places that I've served overseas that are close to Russia where things like this have happened. And a lot of times right after a huge, massive force that is certainly larger than anything that the country that is being attacked can respond to, which is the situation that Ukraine finds itself in, sometimes the only thing that's left is for the emergency personnel to hit the air siren button. It's almost an act of, I'm not going to say it's an act of surrender, and they're doing their jobs, they're trying to help protect civilians. But really, when you've got the Russian military crushing down on you, what else can you do but hit that button and hope for the best?
Yeah. The former chief of Russian operations for the CIA, Steve Hall. Thank you. We appreciate it, Steve. Stick around. You stick around as well. We have a live picture of what's happening in Ukraine? I would imagine Kyiv is somewhere up there. And this is what's happening now. It is 7:41 in the morning in Kyiv, Ukraine. We have heard we've heard airstrike sirens, we've heard explosions. Some of them are saying that it is indeed airstrikes. Some of our folks who are on the ground. And it is a full-scale, according to the U.S., and as you can see, one would surmise, a full-scale invasion of Russia by Ukraine and possibly Belarus. At least we see military forces crossing the border from Belarus. Another picture, 7:42 in the morning, traffic on the streets. People are waking up to what is a full-scale invasion of their country. We'll be right back.
Let's get started. Bill, where's your mask?
I really tried sleeping with it, everybody. Now I sleep with Inspire.
Inspire? No mask?
No hose? Just sleep.
Inspire. Learn more at inspiresleep.com.
At Booking.com, finding perfect isn't rocket science. Kitchen? Sorted. Hot tub? Why not? And of course, puppy friendly. We don't like to say perfect, but it's pretty perfect. Booking.com. Booking.yeah.
Long day, huh? Hey, buddy. You want a Sam Adams? Your cousin. From Boston. Wicked's all around. Get it, girl. Robots! 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 This is the best night of my life.
When you're the leader in disaster cleanup and restoration, how do you make like it never even happened happen? Fire it up, Randy! By being prepared for anything! Whatever comes your way, there's a pro for that.
Serve Pro, like it never even happened.
Plain aspirin could be hurting your stomach. Basilor 325 liquid-filled aspirin capsule is clinically shown in a 7-day study to cause fewer ulcers than immediate-release aspirin. Basilor, the first liquid-filled aspirin capsules. Amazing.
Step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they stay there up, down, up,
Never lose
down,
confidence
up,
in how you run your business. Intuit is bringing QuickBooks and MailChimp together to help you set up and grow.
Man, I love this set.
Do your eyes bother you? My eyes feel like a combo of stress, dry, and sandpaper. Stry paper? Luckily, there's BioTrue Hydration Boost Eye Drops. BioTrue uses naturally inspired ingredients and no preservatives. Try BioTrue.
Wonderful pistachios are available without any shells. That's all we're saying.
Oh, really?
Let me try. I speak turtle.
What?
We're so sorry.
Okay, let's talk about those changes to your financial plan.
Bill? Mary?
Hey, it's our former broker, Carl.
Carl, say hi to Nina, our Schwab financial consultant.
I know how difficult these calls can be.
Not with Schwab. Nina made it easier to set up our financial plan.
We can check in on it anytime.
It changes when our goals change.
Planning can't be that easy.
Actually, it can be, Carl.
Look forward to planning with Schwab.
Allergies don't have to be scary. Spraying Flonase daily stops your body from overreacting to allergens all season long. Flonase, all good.
It's true. Everyone gets a free new Samsung Galaxy S22 with a Galaxy trade-in. Any year, any condition.
Really? Even if my old phone looks like this?
Dude, why?
It's okay, people. I've trained for this.
It's not complicated. Everyone gets a free new Samsung Galaxy S22 with the Galaxy trade-in. Any year, any condition.
Certified turbocharger, suspension, and fuel injection.
Translation? Certified goosebumps.
Certified from headlamp to tailpipe.
That's certified head turns.
And it's all backed by our unlimited mileage warranty.
That means unlimited peace of mind. Mercedes-Benz certified pre-owned. Translation: the Mercedes of your dreams is closer than you think.
Back now with CNN's live coverage of the invasion of Ukraine. I want to get now to CNN's Jim Sciutto. He is live for us in Lviv. Jim, I understand you heard air sirens just moments ago.
That's right, just for the last several minutes, and they faded now, but they were sustained for several minutes here in Lviv. So this would be just the latest city potentially under air attack now. We heard those, of course, earlier in Kyiv, the capital, and this would be truly remarkable, Don, because Lviv here in the western part of the country, there had been some expectation that the Russian invasion would be concentrated in the east, perhaps in the north where the capital is, the central part of the country, and central south down in Odessa, where we saw the first strikes in the last couple of hours, missile strikes, artillery strikes. This is the first time we've heard those air raid sirens here. And that would speak to what, again, the latest U.S. military assessment is, intelligence assessment, that Russia's plan is for a full-scale invasion, and that what we're seeing this morning, in the early morning hours here in Ukraine, are the first steps in that full-scale invasion. So, again, just in the last few minutes here, air raid sirens, sustained air raid sirens in Lviv. And I'll tell you, as I've been watching from the balcony here down in the central part of the old city, folks are walking to work. The cars are still going. The buses are still going here. Remarkably calm, given that this seems to be yet one more Ukrainian city potentially under attack this morning here.
One quick point. When last we left you, when last we spoke, Jim, we talked about troops on the ground. We've gotten the report, and we saw the live stream of the troops entering through Belarus. The U.S. Department of Defense is tracking the reported incursion of troops from Belarus. This is according to our reporting here into Ukraine. The U.S. defense official said Thursday it was not clear if troops were only Russian or also Belarusian. The importance of that, Jim.
It would mean that Ukraine's under attack from two countries now. Remarkable, really. Now, we should note that Belarus is essentially under Moscow's sway, has been for months now, since it's been alleged they stole an election there to keep their man, Lukashenko, in power. But it also speaks to these big military drills, as they were called, exercises that Russian and Belarusian forces were doing jointly. In the last week, there'd been some suspicion on the U.S. side that those drills were not really drills or exercises, but preparation, amassing of forces to enter Ukraine. And if it is indeed confirmed that it is both Russian and Belarusian forces coming across from the north, that would seem to indicate Ukraine is now under attack by two countries. And as we look at that picture, if you put it up again there, Don, of those tanks coming down across the northern border, note this, there'd been a lot of discussion about timing and the shortness of timing for Russia, that it's cold here now, that the frozen ground in the east and to the north was important so that those Russian tanks don't get bogged down in the mud, a genuine threat. But to see Russian tanks, armor, just rolling in on the highways shows you just how massive a force this is, and perhaps that entering the country, those forces entering the country was easier than expected.
Yeah. From Jim Sciutto now. Thank you, Jim, in Lviv. I want to get to Odessa and our Nick Payton-Walsh, who's on the ground there with the very latest. Nick.
Yeah, Don, I mean, it is extraordinary here. We were woken at about 5 a.m. by 3 or 4 explosions, and subsequently about an hour ago heard another 2. But at this stage, this strategic port city is still quiet. Signs of police on the streets and concern here, definitely people sort of staying at home. But it's remarkable that we are so far away from the east, from the north, where we've seen these troop movements, heard and felt the likelihood of the threat for days now, but still explosions have been heard here this morning in this key port city. It shows possibly the breadth of the ambition here behind what Russian President Vladimir Putin is possibly getting underway here. And one thing I think it's important to remind our viewers about is his comments in the last hours or so. He says, now, a few important words for those who may be tempted to intervene in ongoing events from the outside. That may be a reference towards NATO or the United States, who he has long falsely used as the justification, their threat, he says, to Russia for possibly moving in here. Whoever tries to interfere with us, and even more so create threats to our country, to our people, should know that Russia's response should be immediate and will lead you to such consequences as you have never experienced in your history. We are ready for any development of events. All necessary decisions in this regard have been made. I hope that I will be heard. Now, that is extraordinary. I mean, for 8 years, we've seen this conflict in Ukraine on the sort of slower, lower level boil. We've seen denied reports of Russian troops going into Crimea, separatists who clearly were being run by Moscow, making their own regions in the east. But today we are seeing an overt invasion by Russia across borders with troops, possibly with the assistance of Belarus too as well, in a scale of which I think anybody who's been observing this conflict thought was utterly unimaginable. And then these comments from Russian President Vladimir Putin essentially threatening consequences that nobody's seen in history before. Utterly chilling, and a different day for European and global security this morning. Dom?
Nick Payton-Walsh joining us from Odessa, Ukraine. Thank you very much for that, Nick. Back with me now, CNN National Security Analyst Steve Hall, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander General Wesley Clark with me as well. General, we spoke earlier, and the situation is a quite different situation now than when we spoke earlier. There was no confirmation of an invasion, and yet here we are, and we've heard from all parties involved.
Yeah, this is pretty much what we expected. First, there's going to be the takeout of the air defense, and that's what it looks like has been done so far. There's sabotage and other things probably going on that we don't know about yet. The first troops have come across the border. We know that. We don't know what's happened in Donbass. Coming in from the north is the most direct way to get into Kyiv. You saw on the video a battalion tactical group moving right down the road. Unless the roads are blocked by Ukrainian forces, they'll be in Kyiv in a few hours. And then, we'll see what happens. I assume that the Ukrainians have defenses out there. It's going to be hard for CNN to capture the sites of that. Hopefully we'll get social media of it or something, but they've got to stop this force coming in, or it'll be over very, very quickly, except for whatever fighting might be coming out in the cities. Now, two other things. The leadership is saying for people to stay in their homes, so they haven't mobilized civil defense yet. And if they don't do that pretty quickly, given the pace of the advance, it's going to be too late. Mm-hmm. And secondly, you heard the warning to NATO or to the United States not to interfere. So depending on what happens, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the United States and NATO to interfere. Ukraine is the largest force in Europe other than Turkey. And so that's the toughest nut for Russia to crack. They take it like this, the rest of NATO, despite the fact that it's NATO, is in a much less defensible position, and especially the Baltic states. So there's a lot riding on this operation right now.
And Steve, in the short time we have left, sum it up for us. We have heard that they promise of bloodshed from some leaders of the President of the United States, saying that this is all of this is on Russia's hands, and we will hold Russia accountable.
Absolutely. We always have to remember how this all started, whether it was Georgia in 2008 or whether it was the annexation of Crimea. This is all something that Russia started, and it is indeed on Vladimir Putin's hands. I do think it's something that he would very proudly say, yes, it is. And this is part of my plan geopolitically. I am going to protect my borders by taking over these countries, which is now being made very clear by the images that we're seeing coming out of Ukraine.
General Wesley Clark, Steve Hall. Gentlemen, thank you both. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for watching on a very momentous evening here on CNN for the country and for the world. Our live coverage of the attack on Ukraine continues with Michael Holmes in just a moment. I'm Don Lemon in New York.
How would you describe him? How do you explain something this crazy?
Alex Jones, once on the fringes, now the king of conspiracy theories.
The QAnon group, the anti-vaxxers, he's the foundation of all this stuff.
Could he be a threat to American democracy?
There is a war for your mind.
Go inside his misinformation empire. CNN Special Report, Megaphone for Conspiracy, the Alex Jones story, Sunday at 9.
What if you could have the perspective to see more? At Morgan Stanley, a global collective of thought leaders offers investors a broader view. We see companies protecting the bottom line by putting people first. We see a bright future, still hungry for the ingenuity of those ready for the next challenge. Today, we're translating decades of experience into strategies for the road ahead. We are Morgan Stanley.
With the timeless protection of ADT, it's safe to say,
you're all set.
With amazing employees like these, it's safe to say, nobody has more experience helping keep you safe than ADT.
I swear I lived.
United Healthcare Medicare plans offer more, like the Visit a Doctor Anywhere Our RV Takes Us plan. And the Zero Copays Means More Money for Rumba Lessons plan. Find the right plan for you from United Healthcare. Get Medicare with more.
Book now at dreamsresorts.com with savings of up to 40%.
I've traveled every road in this here land. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man. I breathe the mountain air, man. Of travel I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. I've been to Pittsburgh, Parkersburg, Gravelburg, Colorado, Ellen City, Cedar City, Dodge City, what a pity. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere.
Sunday.
The actor goes to... What? To my fellow actors. Thank you so much.
The SAG Awards, live Sunday at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on TNT and TBS.
There's never been a better time to switch to Spectrum Mobile. You could save up to 60% on your monthly mobile bill. Plus, there are no added taxes, hidden fees, and no contracts. Use the Spectrum Mobile Savings Calculator. And in 3 easy steps, you'll instantly see how much money you could save by switching to Spectrum Mobile. See for yourself. Visit spectrummobile.com/save today.
Looking for a vehicle that holds its value? Subaru vehicles hold their value better than any other brand. Subaru of Melbourne is located just minutes from anywhere in Brevard County. 1 minute from I-95 on US 192, Subaru of Melbourne is easy and convenient to get to. We have a great selection of new and used vehicles, an award-winning service you expect and deserve, and even a little something for your best friend. Come visit your hometown dealership or shop online at SubaruofMelbourne.com. Subaru of Melbourne, more than a car dealership.
He meant so much to so many people.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Hello and welcome to CNN. I'm Michael Holmes coming to you live from Lviv, Ukraine. Major breaking news this hour as Ukrainian government leaders say the Russian invasion has begun. And just a few minutes ago, for the second time this hour, we have heard air raid sirens, loud sirens here in Lviv. This is in the west of the country. They persisted for some time and from multiple parts of the city. They've only just ended. That's twice this hour. And one of our local producers messaged me just now and said that on the local television, government officials are asking people to turn off the lights, gather their documents and take cover, also asking people not to panic. A pretty tall order as what we're seeing unfold around this country continues. Okay, now an advisor to the Interior Minister is reporting missile strikes in the capital, Kyiv, the shelling of airfields and military headquarters in Kharkiv, and Russian troops landing in the Ukrainian port city of Odessa. Now, CNN has obtained video from Ukrainian border guards, which also shows a column of military vehicles entering the country from Belarus. That is to the north of the country, and a pretty quick shot to Kyiv from there. Tens of thousands of Russian troops have been conducting military drills in Belarus, of course, for several weeks and just never left when those drills were over. CNN correspondents in Kyiv and cities throughout Ukraine are reporting multiple explosions. CNN's Matthew Chance was on air just a few hours ago when this happened.
Oh, I tell you what, I just heard a big bang right here behind me. I thought we shouldn't have done the live shot here. There are big explosions taking place in Kiev right now. I can't see where they're taking place from this vantage point here on top of the roof of the hotel in central Kiev. And I can't explain what they are, but I heard 4 or 5 explosions a few moments ago. I don't know whether our viewers or whether you in the studio there could hear what I just heard. You could, right. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what it is, but I will tell you that the United States has warned
Was that another one?
The Ukrainians. Yeah, I mean, I think it was.
Now, the Russian President Vladimir Putin is calling this a, quote, special military operation to protect Donbass. It is clearly bigger than that. Now, he made a surprise appearance on state television calling for the demilitarization of Ukraine, blaming the government in Kyiv for bloodshed, but said Russian forces are not planning an occupation.
Whoever tries to interfere with us, and even more so to create threats for our country, our people should know that Russia's response will be immediate and will lead you to such consequences that you have never experienced in your history.
Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, he went on Facebook again to address the nation. He says he's imposing martial law but urged the country not to panic.
Today, each of you should stay calm. Stay at home if you can. We are working. The army is working. The whole sector of defense and security is working. No panic. We are strong. We are ready for everything. We will win over everybody because we are Ukraine.
All right, we are covering this from all angles. We've got CNN's Fred Plykin. He's in Russia's Belgorod region. Nick Payton-Walsh is in the Ukrainian port city of Odessa. Jill Doherty in Moscow. Atika Schubert here in Lviv with me, and Kevin Liptak in Washington. All right, let's start first of all with you, Kevin. I want to hear what Washington is saying about this and what they will say going forward.
Well, we've just heard that President Biden has spoken to President Zelensky. They got on the phone just before midnight Washington time, the president calling him about 90 minutes after we first heard those explosions in Kiev. The president saying that Zelensky reached out to him, the president saying he condemned this unprovoked and unjustified attack. And the President Biden saying that President Zelensky asked him to call on the leaders of the world to speak out clearly against President Putin's flagrant aggression and to stand with the people of Ukraine. And so this is sort of kicking off this wave of reaction from the United States. We do expect President Biden to get on a virtual call with members of the G7 tomorrow, mid-morning, Washington time. That is where the leaders we expect will discuss potential sanctions that they will impose on Moscow for what it's doing tonight, what it has begun tonight. And then we expect to hear from the president midday tomorrow, Washington time, and that is when we expect him to lay out these sanctions that the U.S. plans to impose. And we're hearing tonight from officials that this is going to be the full package. These are the swift and severe sanctions that the president has been promising for some time. We expect that to include export controls, restrictions on certain technologies that can be imported into Russia. We also expect the president to announce sanctions on additional financial institutions and on additional members of Vladimir Putin's inner circle. And so this has been what the president has been warning about really for months. He applied those limited sanctions earlier in this week, but he promised at that point that if Russia escalated, he would escalate as well. And so that is what we expect to hear from the president tomorrow. But tonight, we're told that the president is huddling with members of his national security team, obviously keeping a very close eye on this. Something we should note, the president, of course, had hoped that these sanctions would be a deterrent. It's clear tonight that the deterrent didn't work out. The president said in a statement that Jill, the First Lady Jill Biden, and I are praying for the brave and proud people of Ukraine. Michael.
Kevin Liptak, thanks so much. Let's go to Fred Plykin in the Belgorod region of Russia and give us a sense of what's going on the ground where you are, Fred.
Hi there, Michael. Well, the Belgorod region is, of course, right across from the border from Kharkiv, which apparently was one of the main targets of some of the fire that's been coming from here, from the Russian side. Of course, Kiev also as well. And what we witnessed when this operation started, right around the time when we just saw Matthew Chance there, started hearing those impacts in Kiev, is that we started hearing a lot of outgoing fire coming here from Belgorod. We've been reporting about it over the past couple of weeks, that the Russians have been amassing forces here, which saw a lot of armor pour into the region, but apparently also amassing artillery here and also some longer distance rockets as well. One of our producers, Uliana Pavlova, she actually saw some of those rocket salvos being fired towards Ukrainian territory, and we heard it several times. We also heard what we believe were larger rockets that may have been launched as well. Of course, one of the things, Michael, that we've been talking about is that the Russians had also brought the Iskander-M medium-range missile system into this area and other areas close to Ukraine as well. That has a very long range, is a very powerful and also a very dangerous weapon as well. So it certainly appears as though Belgorod, where I am right now, is one of the main hubs that the Russians are using to launch these attacks. But on the other hand, it's also become clear throughout the night, as we've been reporting, that this is an extremely widespread attack. You were talking about it. There was that CCTV video of troops crossing the border on a border crossing between Ukraine and Belarus. That was one of the things that had always been hanging in the air, whether or not Russian forces would also invade Belarus. I was actually at exercises last week in Belarus with the Russian and Belarusian militaries, where I asked Belarusian strongman Alexander Lukashenko about the possibility of that happening, and he laughed it off. He said, "Do you really believe that we're going to invade Ukraine from Belarus?" Well, now it certainly appears as though that does seem to be happening. As far as some of those other possible ground invasions, we don't have confirmation yet about where Russian forces may have also crossed the border. But one thing I can tell you, Michael, is from having been in this region, really having gone down from the south near Donetsk all the way up to here to north of Ukraine to Belgorod, we did see some encampments that we saw that appeared to be Russian special forces, which would no doubt be the first ones that would go on if there was a larger ground invasion. Certainly one of the other things that, for instance, our Jim Sciutto is reporting, the U.S. believes that airstrikes could be used to try and soften up the battlefield to then obviously make it easier for Russian forces to invade. But by and large, what we see is this is a large-scale operation, a widespread operation, and certainly one that's being carried out by a lot of Russian forces with a lot of firepower, Michael.
Yeah, would indicate multiple points of entry according to reports. And as you say, yet to get confirmation of that, but very significant coming in from Belarus there. It's not that far to Kyiv if you're coming in from there. Fred Plykin, appreciate it. Nick Payton-Walsh, you're there in Odessa, which is a very strategic port, a very important port for Ukraine economically, but strategically important too. What have you been seeing and hearing there?
Yeah, Michael, woken at about 5 o'clock this morning by 3 or 4 explosions, distant ones certainly, and this is the third largest city in Ukraine, so a nightmare potentially for any sort of violence in the hours ahead. We don't know where those noises came from, and then subsequently, about an hour or so later, there were 2 more equally distant as well. The Interior Minister had suggested earlier that some sort of invasion was occurring here. We've seen no evidence to that effect from where we're standing, close to the port in the centre of the city, and there's certainly no reports amongst locals about that at this stage. But the important thing here, Michael, is that this is clear evidence. We're talking about a country-wide event here. The fact we're hearing explosions in this predominantly Russian-speaking strategic port city that is essentially Ukraine's maritime access to the outside world. That is deeply troubling. And, you know, we've been talking about this for days as a possibility. And the fact we wake up to hear of a multiple-pronged move into the country, Vladimir Putin telling anybody who might think they want to interfere that they would risk getting consequences that they've not seen before in their history. It is just utterly startling that this war that's been so covert for 8 years has now taken this new overt and terrifying form. We don't know how extensive the Russian intervention would be, but we do certainly know they appear to have forces on Ukraine's borders that could do terrifying things inside this country in the days ahead. But it is remarkable to stand here in this kind of, at this stage, peaceful port city, but to know that blasts have extended around here to essentially show the reach of Moscow's violence here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you're way west, we're way west, and as I'm speaking to you, the air raid sirens are going off here in Lviv. Again, I also just wanted, before I go to Jill Doherty in Moscow, say that the Ukrainian armed forces are claiming to have shot down 5 Russian aircraft and an attack helicopter. So that's from the Ukrainian armed forces. We'll get more information on that as we move along. Jill Doherty in Moscow. Obviously, when Vladimir Putin was saying, he wasn't planning much, he was lying.
You know, Michael, if you look at what he said in this speech tonight, he begins by saying, well, it was the people of Donbass. We had to go in and protect them. But in the very same speech, he broadens it, and you've been referring to this, broadens it enormously. For instance, he talks about NATO supporting neo-Nazis. And that is the purpose, he says, for this operation, demilitarizing and denazifying Ukraine. And then he goes on to say that he is urging, and this is quite extraordinary, he literally talks to the Ukrainian military and urges them to run away. He says, give up, lay down your arms, and go home. And if you do, nothing will happen. And then that final, really, I would say, blood-curdling note. And again, the tone that he speaks in is really very much like this. Now, a few important words for those who may be tempted to intervene. And then he says, if you try to intervene and create a threat for our country. So in other words, now he's talking about Russia, not just the people in Donbass. He says, you will have such consequences that you have never experienced in your history. So that could be a warning to any country. It could be a warning to NATO, to the United States, not to even think about intervening. It's an extraordinary, and I would say very emotional and angry speech. And we've been hearing that this week from the president. There has been that tone that he is just fed up and he's going to do what he wants to do.
Yeah, indeed. Jill, appreciate that. Jill Doherty there in Moscow. Atika Schubert here in Lviv with me in the west of the country. What sense are you getting from Ukrainians here, how they're preparing for this?
Well, we do know that in the days leading up to this, the government had put out public brochures telling people what to do in the event of an emergency, asking them to make sure they had enough food, gas, an alternate source of heat and energy if those supplies should be cut off. Make sure they have emergency bags and to know where their nearest shelters were if they needed to leave their home. A lot of churches, for example, have been designated as shelters. But, the question is how seriously did many Ukrainians take this? So many people here have been living with the specter of war for the last 8 years that they kind of grown used to it. I think for many, they didn't believe this day would actually happen. And to actually hear sirens here in Lviv, in the western part of Ukraine, which is just an hour from the Polish border. That is extraordinary, Michael. So I think many here are understandably nervous, trying to get on as normal, but they just don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah. Atika, thank you so much. I want to go back to Fred Pleiken, who is, on Russian territory, and get more of a sense of what you've been seeing. Because the remarkable thing, Fred, is that despite what Russia has said all the way along until this day, they are placed in multiple positions around the country, and it would appear from reports that they're operating, they're moving from multiple positions. What is your sense of the aim?
I mean, I think that everybody, or almost everybody, really underestimated just how large-scale this invasion was going to be in the end. I mean, there were these warnings of Russia amassing forces around Ukraine. There were some questions even raised by the Ukrainian government whether or not even the forces that Russia had amassed would be enough for a large-scale invasion. Around 150,000 was, I think, the number that the United States used. So what I've actually done, Michael, in the past 20, maybe 24 hours or so, is we actually drove all the way from the south in Donetsk, all the way along the line to those two separatist republics that, of course, now been recognized by Vladimir Putin, all the way up here to Belgorod. So pretty much the entire border that Russia has with those separatist republics, which is, of course, Ukrainian territory. And there certainly is a lot of Russian military hardware, a lot of Russian armor that is on the ground there. And you see that. You see infantry fighting vehicles, you see tanks, you see large howitzers as well, mechanized artillery, all of that sort. So certainly everything that you would need for a brutal invasion. But then, as I said, we also saw camps that seemed to have Russian special forces inside them, Russian aviation, Russian helicopters. So they did put on, they did put in the field a really, really big force that certainly can do a lot of damage and certainly drive well into Ukrainian territory. Now, how deep they will try to do that is really unclear, but I think that the most troubling thing that many, probably governments around the world are seeing right now is that invasion from Belarus. Because as you put it, and it's an important point to make, the fastest way to get to the Ukrainian capital, Kiev, from the outside is via Belarus, is that road via Belarus. It's a road that's been upgraded in the past couple of years to actually encourage trade between Ukraine and Belarus. So it's a very good road, an easy one to travel. I think that's going to cause a lot of people a lot of concern, Michael.
Yeah. Not too far to Kiev, the capital. Fred Pleiken, Nick Payton-Walsh, Jill Doherty, Atika Schubert, Kevin Liptak, our thanks to all of you. We will be checking back with you shortly. Now, meanwhile, stay with us here on CNN. We have much more ahead on the major breaking news, Russia's attack on Ukraine and the world's response. We'll be right back.
As a struggling actor, I need all the breaks that I can get. At Liberty Mutual.
Cut.
Line.
Cut. Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Cut. Liberty? Am I allowed to riff? What if I come out of the water? Liberty bibbity.
Cut. We'll dub it.
Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
With our unique tub-over-tub installation in just a day, Bathfitter doesn't just fit your bath, it fits your busy schedule. Why have over 2 million people welcomed Bathfitter into their homes? It just fits. Bathfitter. Call now or visit bathfitter.com to book your free consultation.
I've traveled every road in this here land. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man. I breathe the mountain air, man. Of travel I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. I've been to Pittsburgh, Parkersburg, Gravelburg, Colorado, Ellen City, Cedar City, Dodge City, what a pity. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere.
Jordan is soul for the mornings. Choose to be grateful. The tune of Georgia football, where books meet Black Mecca. Should you move to Canada? Grasping French, à la fois, tragedy in the Middle East, trumpet and freedom, and spirit, thought, and jazz. The mystery of that Basquiat, a shrimp Creole for our time, that healing saxophone thing, mixing it up Brazilian style. What feelings sound like finding a voice far away.
House cleaned. Cabinet handled. Bathroom tiled. Get started on your next home project at Angie.com or download the Angie mobile app today. Make your home an Angie home. Angie, and done.
Men put their skin through a lot. Day in, day out. That's why Dove Men Body Wash has skin-strengthening nutrients and moisturizers that help rebuild your skin. Dove Men Plus Care. Smoother, healthier skin with every shower.
Do you think any of us will look back in our lives and regret the things we didn't buy? Or the places we didn't go?
Did I tell you I bought our car from Carvana?
Yeah, Ma.
It was so easy. I found the perfect car. Under budget, too. And I get 7 days to love it or my money back. I love it! I thought online meant no one to help me. But Susan from Carvana had all the answers. She didn't try to upsell me. Not once. Because they're not salespeople. Where do you guess who just checked in on me?
Mom.
Susan from Carvana.
We'll drive you happy at Carvana.
Russia's attack on Ukraine is tantamount to an attack on the UN and every member state in the chamber tonight.
America's UN ambassador there condemning Russia's military moves on Ukraine. Ukrainian officials say the invasion is underway, and that includes missile strikes on Kyiv. Now, I just want to update you. We reported earlier Ukrainian armed forces saying that they'd shot down 5 Russian aircraft and a helicopter. Want to update you on that. The Russian defense ministry is saying that is not true. Obviously, we are in a fog of war situation here, and there will be claim and counterclaim. Meanwhile, let's show you images of blasts near the capital, Kyiv. Our correspondents on the ground there have heard explosions in multiple cities, including Kyiv, Kharkiv and Odessa. I can tell you the air raid sirens here in Lviv have started up again. That's the 4th time over the last hour or so. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is urging calm. He has announced that martial law is being introduced nationwide. All right, CNN military analyst, retired General Wesley Clark, joins me now from Little Rock, Arkansas. He's a former NATO Supreme Allied Commander and a senior fellow at the UCLA Burkle Center. General, great to have your expertise at this momentous time. What are the tactics you see as most likely to be employed as these Russian operations get underway? What would you think is the big plan from what you've seen so far?
Well, first of all, I want to say that contrary to what one of your people said, all of us saw this coming from multiple directions, and that's what it looks like. Now, this is a very logical unfolding of this attack. You've got precision strike ordnance hitting anti-aircraft sites and command and control centers. We don't know precisely what they are, and the Ukrainians obviously don't want to disclose that and reveal their losses or whatever's happened to the public because they don't want the Russians to know it. So we won't know that. But those strikes will continue during the day and maybe into the night. At the same time, the Russians have launched from the north ground assaults into the direction of Kyiv. Now, Kyiv is so close that it's time for, and I hope President Zelensky, now he's declared martial law, get those barricades up, get the civil defense out there, be prepared to fight every street, every block in Kyiv. Because if you don't, once those Russian troops get in there, you won't be able to organize that defense. I'm hopeful that the Ukrainian forces will prevent the Russians from ever getting to Kyiv. But any sensible military planner would tell you that you might have to have defense in depth. And the final ring of that defense is the defense of Kyiv itself. I believe the Russians are going to Kyiv. They want a regime change. They're targeting Mr. Zelensky, President Zelensky, and his top people. We know they've got the hit lists out there. So this is the start of it. Now, the video that was shown earlier on CNN, which I'm sure you've shown on International, is one of the battalion tactical groups crossing into Ukraine. They're moving on the roads. It is soft offshore, off the roads. Ground's not frozen, but got to block those roads. Those tanks were moving 25 miles an hour or more. So in just a day's drive, they could be in Kyiv if they're not stopped. So this is a desperate time for Ukraine. All the world is watching and pulling for Ukraine. One other thing, I do hope we provide assistance to Ukraine to help them stay in the fight. They say they don't need any fighters, but they're certainly going to need support, and the West needs to give them that support. The nations of NATO, the United States, must do this. I hear Mr. Putin's statement, and I will tell you that in his previous exercises, Russia always anticipates a NATO involvement, and Russia plans to use some unconventional weapons, and including a nuclear weapon if necessary to frighten off NATO. So this is no joke. This is a real confrontation, and you heard what the ambassador said at the United Nations. This is an attack on the world order by Mr. Putin. Well, it can't be answered by just standing aside. So I hope America's European allies and our many friends in Europe who are listening to this broadcast understand that this attack on Ukraine is directed at them, and their nations, their leadership must respond now. The sanctions were a good plan. Mr. Putin's not too concerned about finance, obviously, and so he wants to rule by force. We can't permit that.
Yeah, a couple of things. You say that Ukrainians should stand and fight and defend Kyiv, and certainly they will. I want your thoughts on capability, and secondary to that, you say the world shouldn't just stand by and let this happen. What are they going to do about it?
Well, first of all, I think the Ukrainians have an excellent defense capacity. They've got a large army, the largest army in Europe outside of Turkey. They're trained. Their officers are pretty good. What they haven't done is they haven't had the opportunity to practice command and control, as we would say, maneuvering forces over large areas. This could be difficult, and so this will be challenging for them. And that's the one thing that I'm concerned about, and that's why I think it's important for the Ukrainians to mobilize their defenses right away in the urban areas. Don't wait and take a chance that the Russians will penetrate that area. And the second thing that's very important is that we provide the logistics sustainment. One of the Russian tactics is, if this battle drags on, is They want to exhaust the Ukrainian military. Well, the Ukrainian military, this is not counterinsurgency. This is main force operation. So they're going to need artillery, especially artillery ammunition. They're going to need spares. They're going to need fuel and logistics. They're going to need spare barrels for their artillery. That's what they needed in 2015. Our NATO allies have that equipment, and it needs to be provided.
All right, General Wesley Clark, great to have your expertise at this moment. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Well, explosions ringing out in Ukraine amid global condemnation and a very ominous threat from Vladimir Putin. We're covering all of this live from Ukraine. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
How would you describe him? How do you explain something this crazy?
Alex Jones, once on the fringes, now the king of conspiracy theories.
The QAnon group, the anti-vaxxers, he's the foundation of all this stuff.
Could he be a threat to American democracy?
There is a war for your mind.
Go inside his misinformation empire. CNN Special Report, Megaphone for Conspiracy, The Alex Jones Story, Sunday at 9. Migraine attacks? Qulipta can help prevent migraine attacks. It can't prevent triggers, like your next period or stress. You can't prevent what's going on outside. That's why Qulipta helps what's going on inside. Qulipta is a pill, gets right to work to prevent migraine attacks and keeps them away over time. Qulipta blocks CGRP, a protein believed to be a cause of migraine attacks. Qulipta is a preventive treatment for episodic migraine. Most common side effects are nausea, constipation, and tiredness. Learn how AbbVie can help you save on Qulipta.
And a little bit of chicken fried, cold beer on a Friday night, a pair of jeans that fit just right, and the radio.
Get 5 boneless wings for $1 with any handcrafted burger, only at Applebee's.
Sheldon, good to see you. I can see you're upset, but when we said ditch the shells, we were talking about pistachios, not you.
Oh, you mean these pistachios? Oh no, you look upset. You okay, John?
Can we get some arugula, please?
Bro trip. If you book a Priceline, you'll save more, so you can bro more.
Bro.
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 Bro. Good thing you saved on the trip. Priceline. Every trip is a big deal.
How bizarre. No annual fee on any Discover card.
Eliminating grays is as easy as combing your hair. With Just For Men Easy Comb in Color. Just twist and comb. Getting natural looking results.
Let's get this meeting started.
Has never been easier. The most men trust Just For Men.
Coming to HLN. All new episodes of Forensic Files 2 with all new mysteries to solve. Forensic Files 2, Sunday at 10 on HLN.
While playing college football at the United States Air Force Academy, we often battled against teams that were bigger, faster, and stronger, and yet we still found a way to win. At High Stack, we apply the same principles of hard work, ingenuity, and perseverance to take on and defeat the big, powerful insurance companies. Give us the opportunity to show you what we can do for you, and always remember to think high. High Stack.
Gary Yeoman's Ford Ocala Village's grand opening Blue Tag sales event. It's going on right now, and it's being held at all of our locations: Palm Bay, Daytona Beach, and the Pre-Owned Super Center. That's right, Big Blue Tag selection, Big Blue Tag discounts and rebates. Every vehicle, every location. We're sure to have a vehicle that fits your budget. Get grand opening bank approvals. Blue Tag interest rates as low as 0.9%. That alone can save you up to $10,000. Shop right now at GoYeomans.com and see why Florida says. Go Yeomans!
I'm Matthew Chance in Kiev, Ukraine, and this is CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Sokolov Law. Call 800-891-5400 today.
Mesothelioma victims, call now. $30 billion in trust money has been set aside. You may be entitled to a portion of that money. Call 1-800-891-5400. That's 1-800-891-5400.
I'm Michael Holmes, live in Lviv, Ukraine, with the breaking news. After so many weeks of waiting and wondering and whether Russia would attack Ukraine, that long-feared invasion has truly begun. A few hours ago, the Russian president announcing what he called a special military operation in the Donbass region of eastern Ukraine, but insisted his plans do not include occupation. And yet we are getting new images of troops entering Ukraine from the north, from Belarus, nowhere near the Donbass. And Ukraine says that's just one of the fronts from which it was attacked. Explosions have been ringing out around several Ukrainian cities. The Russian military claims that it is not targeting the cities, but rather Ukraine's military infrastructure. But air raid sirens are being ringing out in Kyiv and also here in Lviv in the west, and the Prime Minister has imposed martial law. Ukraine's foreign minister tweeting this, quote, Putin has just launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Peaceful Ukrainian cities are under strikes. This is a war of aggression. Ukraine will defend itself and we will win. And the world can and must stop Putin. The time to act is now. However, President Vladimir Putin bluntly threatening those who might be tempted to intervene, saying this, quote, you should know that Russia's response will be immediate and lead to such consequences as you have never experienced in your history. Dire, to say the least. We also want to share with you a powerful moment from the Ukrainian border city of Kharkiv, where the mayor has warned people not to leave their homes. But not long ago, this small group were seen kneeling on the cold stones of the square and praying, we presume, for their country, for their loved ones. These are the civilians who face a terrifying future. They don't know what's coming down the pipeline, and they certainly don't deserve to live in this fear. Let's bring in CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh in the Ukrainian port city of Odessa. Earlier reports were around that Russians may have come into Odessa. There were explosions. What are you hearing? What do you see with your own eyes there, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, truth be told, Michael, where we are in the centre of the port city, it is quiet. Just a burst of sirens there, police sirens on motor vehicles. But we heard explosions at about 5 o'clock this morning, 3 or 4, followed at about 6 o'clock by 2 more. Since then, it has been quiet. And those blasts were, as far as we can tell, it's difficult to know in an urban environment, not in the city centre, possibly further out. But they certainly suggest that part of the military operation Russia's undertaking here has Odessa, or Odessa's defences or its outskirts in their crosshairs. The fear had been that because this is such a vital strategic port city, essentially Ukraine's access to the maritime world, that it might come under some sort of amphibious landing, but there is no sign of this as far as we can tell here at the moment. But it is startling to see the breadth and scale of what we are observing at the moment. Suggestions of troops entering from various parts around the border, and troublingly too how that tallies with the gravest warnings from Western officials about what Russia might be willing to undertake here. That's these plans that seem themselves so extraordinary, almost far-fetched or preposterous, that seem to lack any strategic gain or logic for the Kremlin head if he undertook something as extensive as it appears to be beginning at this stage. But still, nonetheless, that is underway with that dark, strident warning from the Kremlin head, a man who delivered a 57-minute speech of what seemed like mostly personal grievances about how the Soviet Union collapsed, about how NATO has been behaving, they say, in Ukraine, that spoke to a mindset that may have decided to order an invasion like this, despite the fact that it is likely to lead both Russia and Ukraine into a very dark place of loss in the months ahead.
Nick, you've lived in Moscow. You covered the early years of Vladimir Putin. What is your take on his state of mind?
It's deeply troubling. I mean, even people who I've spoken to, Western officials who have looked at the intelligence coming in, all of it, and seen what it shows, that an invasion was highly likely in a catastrophic way, still were asking the question, well, why would anybody do this? What is the strategic gain for Vladimir Putin? Yes, he could march in here and put 100,000 plus troops in various cities, but he can't keep them there forever because Ukrainians don't want them there. That decision was made after 2014, 2015, when the kind of more pro-Russian, Russian-speaking part of the country was hived off into those separatist territories. It's not going to be a pliant Ukrainian population, it seems, certainly not in the long run. And so the investment of Russian military hardware, souls here, is likely to lead to some kind of Russian loss, which does speak to this state of mind question, which is what was so terrifying to see in his 57-minute speech. He was not talking to the Russian population that have dealt with the pandemic in the same way that he has, with essentially isolating himself, it seems. It was a man still obsessed with stuff that happened early on in his career, when he was a KGB officer in Berlin, obsessed with the breakup of the Soviet Union, which he called the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. Obsessed, it seems, with how Ukraine didn't really have a right to exist as a country and how it had sort of come into fruition through mistakes of the Soviets, and obsessed too with this fictitious narrative that NATO is somehow seeking to attack Russia, that Ukraine was a platform. He said that the NATO missions here that have been about trying to teach Ukrainian military personnel here how to better defend the country were essentially NATO bases, that NATO would be a platform to attack Russia. That's the narrative. And even today, this notion that somehow there are neo-fascists in the midst of the Ukrainian military that need to be attacked so Russia can defend itself, that's something absurd that we've heard after all this time. Ribbons worn on separatist uniforms, harking back to the valiant work of, in Stalin's times, of Russian citizens fighting against the Nazis here, echoing back on that into this day's context when it's Russia that's the invading force, that Russia that has the lone authoritarian calling the shots, it seems, in isolation, often even from his own security officials. It's a deeply troubling morning, Michael, one that I fear is going to echo in the years of European security for the next decade. Quite terrifying.
Yeah. Great analysis there, Nick. And yes, the mood of his high echelon during that security meeting, meek, subservient, really basically sucking up to the boss, if we can put it that way, was really telling. Terrific to have your analysis, Nick. Appreciate it there in Odessa, Ukraine. All right, we're going to have much more from Ukraine ahead this hour. For now, let's go back to John Vors in Atlanta. John.
Michael, thank you. CNN's breaking news coverage will continue in a moment. We're live from the Pentagon. You're watching CNN. Back in a moment.
Welcome to Mountain Dealership. Excuse me, I'm looking for a low-mileage SUV with a V8. Let's do a deal. Excuse me, do you have any V8 SUVs, bro?
Bro, I have got a sick SUV back here. It has your name all over it.
Never be ignored at a dealership again.
V8. Yep.
Nice. Buy your car entirely online on vroom.com.
Maybe we missed the sign for the highway.
We didn't miss the sign.
Oh my God!
Where are we? So you're telling me I'm in a mystical town. I can't leave.
These woods are not safe after dark.
I can still hear those things whispering. We are stuck.
I'm gonna find us a way out of this place.
Plain aspirin could be hurting your stomach. Basilor 325 liquid-filled aspirin capsule is clinically shown in a 7-day study to cause fewer ulcers than immediate-release aspirin. Basilor, the first liquid-filled aspirin capsules. Amazing.
Hey businesses, you all deserve something epic. So we're giving every business our best deals on every iPhone, including the iPhone 13 Pro with 5G.
That's the one with the amazing camera.
Yep, every business deserves it. Like ones that reopened. Hi, we have an appointment. And every new business that just opened.
Like aromatherapy rugs.
I'll take one in blue, please.
It's not complicated. AT&T is giving new and existing business customers our best deals on every iPhone.
Certified turbocharger, suspension, and fuel injection.
Translation? Certified goosebumps.
Certified from headlamp
to tailpipe.
That's certified head turns. And it's all backed by our unlimited mileage warranty. That means unlimited peace of mind. Mercedes-Benz certified pre-owned. Translation: the Mercedes of your dreams is closer than you think.
We built the Redfin app to help you win. Get alerts on your phone every time a new home hits the market. Then schedule a tour when it works for you, even the same day. Want to win? Choose Redfin.
That's delicious.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Oh, look at that. Gorgeous.
That's a revelation. I'm literally starving now.
Stanley Tucci, Searching for Italy. New season premieres Sunday, March 13th at 9 on CNN.
Let's go.
The sun is setting on Bear's Tommy Bahama month. It's the final days to take 50% off all Lexington and Tommy Bahama products. The lowest prices you'll see this year. With price increases on the horizon, you won't see these prices again. For one final weekend, our best brands can be yours at half price. You can't miss it. As the world's largest in-stock Tommy Bahama retailer, we stock thousands of items for immediate delivery. The biggest sale of 2022 ends Sunday at Bear's Furniture.
I'm Robert Palmer, president of RP Funding, and I've saved our customers over $80 million in closing costs. With home values at an all-time high, smart homeowners are using their home equity now more than ever. Your home equity could be the best way to finance home improvements, consolidate debt, make investments, or even large purchases. But don't waste your home equity on closing costs. Let me pay them instead, putting more money in your pocket. Visit rpfunding.com or call today.
CNN Special Report, The Alex Jones Story, Sunday at 9.
More now on the breaking news from Ukraine, where government officials say a Russian invasion has begun. CNN teams have reported explosions near the capital Kyiv, as well as several other Ukrainian cities. President Vladimir Zelensky is introducing martial law and urging Ukrainians not to panic. Just hours earlier, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a special military operation in the Donbas region in eastern Ukraine, an area controlled by Russian-backed separatists. The dramatic military escalation by Vladimir Putin has been swiftly condemned by many world leaders, including the US president, who said it was an unprovoked and unjustified attack. Live to the Pentagon now, and CNN reporter Katie Bo-Lillis. So, Katie, what's the latest assessment there from the Pentagon on the extent of the Russian troop mobilization?
Yeah, so talking to my sources both here in Washington and in the region, at this point we understand that it is still very much the fog of war. The Defense Department and the U.S. intelligence community are watching closely, are working to understand how this campaign is unfolding. Certainly at this point, all signs seem to point to the beginning of the ground element of this campaign. We know the Defense Department is closely tracking a reported incursion of Russian troops from Belarus, that CNN has obviously seen footage showing these troops moving across the border. The Ukrainians, of course, are claiming that there have also been incursions from the south and from the east. Intelligence officials are particularly closely watching this reported incursion from the north, from Belarus, because, of course, those officials tell us those troops are particularly well positioned to march on Kyiv. And we've heard from one U.S. senator who has been briefed on the intelligence community's understanding of Russian planning here, that they believe that one of the things Russia may be trying to achieve here is to cut Kyiv off from its own troops operating on the eastern flank of the country, butting up against these separatist regions.
Katie, thank you. Katie Bo-Lillis there live at the Pentagon, just coming out to 1:48 in the morning on a Thursday. Katie, thank you. I'm John Vors in Atlanta. Michael Holmes returns from Lviv after the break with more on our breaking news coverage of the Russian attack on Ukraine. You're watching CNN.
It's electric, made extraordinary. Ingenuity in motion. It listens, learns, adapts, and anticipates your every need. With intelligence that feels anything but artificial. The EQS from Mercedes-Benz. It's the car electric has been waiting for.
no matter where you live. With Dish, you get 99% signal reliability.
Okay, everybody, let's get to the basement.
99% signal reliability anywhere in the country with Dish.
I swear I lived.
We hit the bike trails every weekend.
Shingles doesn't care.
I grow all my own vegetables.
Shingles doesn't care.
We've still got the best moves you've ever seen.
Good for you, but Shingles doesn't care. Because 1 in 3 people will get shingles. You need protection. But no matter how healthy you feel, your immune system declines as you age, increasing your risk for getting shingles. So what can protect you? Shingrix protects. You can protect yourself from shingles with a vaccine proven to be over 90% effective. Shingrix is a vaccine used to prevent shingles in adults 50 years and older. Shingrix does not protect everyone and is not for those with severe allergic reactions to its ingredients or to a previous dose. An increased risk of Guillain-Barré syndrome was observed after getting shingles. Most common side effects are pain, redness and swelling, fever and upset stomach. Ask your pharmacist or doctor about Shingrix. Shingles doesn't care, but you should.
I've traveled every road in this here land. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man. I breathe the mountain air, man. Of travel I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. I've been to Pittsburgh, Parkersburg, Gravelburg, Colorado, Ellen City, Cedar City, Dodge City, what a pity. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere.
With the timeless protection of ADT, it's safe to say...
Hey, Google, unlock the front door.
When you've helped save more lives than any other home security brand, it's safe to say there's a reason millions of people trust ADT to help protect what matters most.
Let's get started. Bill, where's your mask?
I really tried sleeping with it, everybody. Now I sleep with Inspire.
Inspire? No mask? No food?
Just sleep.
Inspire. Learn more at inspiresleep.com.
Oh, my brother, don't you worry about me. Don't you worry, don't you worry, don't worry about me.
Eliminating gray is comb hair. With Just For Men Easy Comb in Color. Just twist and comb. Getting natural looking results.
Let's get this meeting started.
Has never been easier. The most men trust Just For Men.
Hello everyone, I'm Michael Holmes coming to you live in Lviv, Ukraine, as Russia launches what Ukraine's foreign minister describes as a full-scale invasion. Air raid sirens sounding here in Lviv for the probably 6th time in the last hour and a half. Now, officials say attacks from Russian troops have come from Russia, they've come from Belarus and also from Crimea in the south. The Russian military claiming in a statement that Ukraine's border service, quote, did not provide any resistance to Russian units invading Ukrainian territory and claimed to have, quote, suppressed Ukraine's air defences. Again, we should emphasise we have not been able to verify either of those claims. Now, I'm going to show you some video of military vehicles entering Ukraine from a border crossing with Belarus. This is to the north of Ukraine, and critical that it's coming in from Belarus there because it's a fairly straight shot to the capital, Kyiv, from there on good quality roads. CNN correspondents have been hearing explosions in cities across Ukraine, including near Kyiv, Kharkiv and Odessa, which is also in the west of the country where we are. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky says strikes were launched on the country's military infrastructure and the border guards. Joining me now now from Moscow. Alexander Bonov is a senior fellow and editor-in-chief at Carnegie.ru. Great to have your voice here. Vladimir Putin says he doesn't plan to occupy the country. He says he wants to demilitarize Ukraine. Do you buy that? What do you see unfolding?
Well, it's hard to believe to what Vladimir Putin is saying, because what we see, how we see now the situation, everything was made in the logic of special operation. The question was, for me, even yesterday, whether the recognition of the separatist republics in the east of Ukraine was a sort of special operation to cover the possible future invasion, or it was the concentration of the troops and military built up around Ukraine, a cover operation, a special operation to cover this recognition of separatist republics. Unfortunately, the first option prevailed.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you this. Vladimir Putin, he's spoken of the close cultural and familial ties between Russia and Ukraine, yet an invasion would cause thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of deaths of people in Ukraine related to people in Russia. What about that calculus?
That's exactly the reason why so few people here in Moscow really believed that invasion this sort, a massive invasion, can start. Not in minor things, minor fightings on the line. It happened every time. But this massive invasion, exactly for this reason, first, dozens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, families died because between Russians and Ukrainians, which used to live in one country before 30 years and moved freely from like Moscow to Kiev even before 2015 for weekends. Not just family ties, but friendships, loves, and other things. And the second thing why people here believed so little in this possibility is the Russian mindset, generally the mindset of the people who live in this region in the east of Europe. And for these people, the worst historical event, the worst that happened during the 20th century was the German invasion in June of 1941. And the memory of this invasion, a memory of massive bombing and moving troops without declaring the war, was the worst thing in the minds of people here. So that's why it was unimaginable, basically.
Yeah. Important analysis. We're up against the top of the hour. Hopefully we can get you back soon. Alexander Bonov in Moscow, always appreciate your analysis. Thank you so much. Now, live from Ukraine, I'm Michael Holmes. Our breaking news coverage continues after the break.
What's my safe light story? I see inspiration right through my glass. So when my windshield cracked, I chose Safe Light. They replaced the glass and recalibrated my safety system. That service I can trust.
Safe Light Repair, Safe Light Replace.
Your record label is taking off, but so is your sound engineer. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Indeed Instant Match instantly delivers quality candidates matching your job description. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
We need to reduce plastic waste in the environment.
That's why at America's beverage companies,
our bottles are made to be remade.
Not all plastic is the same.
We're carefully designing our bottles to be 100% recyclable, including the caps.
They're collected and separated from other plastics,
so they can be turned back into material that we use to make new bottles.
That completes the circle and reduces plastic waste.
Please help us get every bottle back.
If you use Shipco, this whole thing wouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, Dad, I don't want to deal with it.
Oh, you brought your luggage to the airport. That's adorable. With Shipco, shipping your luggage before you fly, you'll never have to wait around here again. Like, ever. That can't be comfortable, though. Shipco.com, the smart, fast, easy way to travel.
Maybe we missed the sign for the highway.
We didn't miss the sign.
Oh my God!
Where are we? So you're telling me I'm in a mystical town I can't leave? These woods are not safe after dark. I can still hear those things whispering. We are stuck.
I'm gonna find us a way out of this place.
little bit of chicken fried. Cold beer on a Friday night, a pair of jeans that fit just right, and the radio.
Get 5 boneless wings for $1 with any handcrafted burger, only at Applebee's.
How would you describe him? How do you explain something this crazy?
Alex Jones, once on the fringes, now the king of conspiracy theories.
The QAnon group, the anti-vaxxers, he's the foundation of all this stuff.
Could he be a threat to American democracy?
There is a war for your mind.
Go inside his misinformation empire. CNN Special Report, Megaphone for Conspiracy, the Alex Jones story, Sunday at 9.
Hey, Orlando business owners, stop overpaying for internet and phone. Switch to Spectrum Business. You'll get faster internet and get Orlando's best deal for small businesses. For only $49.99 a month, you'll get 600 megabits per second of blazing fast internet. Add business phone for just $19.99 a month. Taxes and fees included. Call 888-845-4779. Count on Spectrum Business to deliver faster speeds at an incredible price with over 99.9% network reliability. It's the best choice for your business. Other providers don't even come close. Just $49.99 a month for 600 megabit internet. Add phone for $19.99 a month. No taxes, no fees, and no contracts. Switch to Spectrum Business and get Orlando's best deal for small businesses. Call today, 888-845-4779.
He meant so much to so many people.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Hello and welcome to our viewers joining us all around the world, live from Ukraine. I'm Michael Holmes, and our breaking news this hour. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is underway, with attacks reported from the north, the east and the south. Ukraine's Interior Ministry says missile strikes have hit the capital, Kyiv. Airfields and military headquarters in Kharkiv have been shelled, and Russian troops have landed in the Ukrainian port city of Odessa. Now, according to Russia, they got no resistance from Ukrainian border guards and, according to Russia, have suppressed Ukraine's air defences. Ukraine's armed forces says 5 Russian aircraft and a helicopter have been shot down, Russia denying that. Video, meanwhile, from Ukrainian border guards shows a column of military vehicles entering the country from Belarus to the north. Tens of thousands of Russian troops have been conducting military drills there for several weeks. CNN's Matthew Chance was on the air just a few hours ago from Kyiv when air raid sirens sounded.
There's been an air raid siren just suddenly. Oh, here it is. There you are. That's an air raid siren. Several of them going off here in the center of the Ukrainian capital. Now, whether that's them just testing it, I don't think so, though, given the situation we currently find ourselves in.
And air raid sirens here in Lviv, Ukraine, in the west of the country. They're going off again right now in the background here. And that's probably the 7th or maybe 8th time in the last hour and a half that has happened. They're coming from multiple parts of the city as well. Local television reporting that government officials are telling residents here in Lviv to stay indoors, gather their documents and not panic. It's hard to see how that is possible given the tension and what's going on around the country. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, he went on Facebook to address the nation. He says he's imposing martial law, but he too urged the country not to panic.
Today, each of you should stay calm. Stay at home if you can. We are working. The army is working. The whole sector of defense and security is working. No panic. We are strong. We are ready for everything. We will win over everybody because we are Ukraine.
All right, the Russian President Vladimir Putin, he's calling this a, quote, military operation to protect Donbass. Well, it's clearly much more than that. He made a surprise appearance on state television early this morning, Mr. Putin blaming the government in Kyiv for any bloodshed, but said Russian forces are not planning an occupation.
Whoever tries to interfere with us, and even more so to create threats for our country, our people should know that Russia's response will be immediate and will lead you to such consequences that you have never experienced in your history.
US President Joe Biden, he condemned what he called the unprovoked and unnecessary Russian invasion. He plans a White House address in the days ahead where he is expected to announce full-scale sanctions on Russia. Mr. Biden tweeting, "Russia alone is responsible for the death and destruction this attack will bring, and the United States and its allies and partners will respond in a united and decisive way." He goes on, "The world will hold Russia accountable." All right, we've got Nick Payton-Walsh standing by in the Ukrainian port city of Odessa. Atika Schubert here in Lviv with me, Jill Doherty in Moscow, and Katie Bolillis is at the Pentagon. Jill Doherty in Moscow, let's start with you. What do you think Vladimir Putin is up to? What is his calculus here? Because it's certainly not what he's been saying was going to happen over recent weeks.
Well, his objectives, he says, Michael, are to demilitarize and denazify the country, Ukraine. So demilitarize could be, obviously, he's been taking out military installations, airports, etc. Denazify is kind of a different question. How do you do that? Who does he define as Nazis? You know, over the past weeks, actually for a very long time, the Russian media have been talking about Ukraine as a neo-Nazi country. And today, in fact, and yesterday, there were constant reports about Nazis, both from World War II and supposedly from today. So how he's going to do that, I really don't know. But that speech, I think when you look at it, it popped up around 5:30 in the morning, Moscow time, just before some of those missiles began hitting in Ukraine. And as you look at it, I've been reading it and rereading it, he's making kind of a limited argument that he had to protect the people in those breakaway regions that he recognized officially just a couple of days before. But then he broadened it. He attacked NATO as supporting neo-Nazis. And then in an extraordinary moment, he spoke directly to the Ukrainian military, saying essentially, give up your weapons, go home, and nothing will happen to you. So it was really quite amazing. And that last quote that you heard where he warns anyone, and that presumably could be NATO, the United States, Europe, etc., not to get involved, or they would see something that they've never seen before. So it's really quite extraordinary. It had a real edge to it. It was angry, and I would say pretty emotional.
Yeah, indeed. Jill Doherty in Moscow, great to have you there. I want to go now to Katie Bolillis. She's at the Pentagon for us. One thing that's interesting about this, Katie, is this move in from the north, which, you know, the Belarusian leader said was ridiculous just a matter of days ago to Alfred Pleiken. Well, here it is happening. What are they saying at the Pentagon?
Yeah, of course. So what we're hearing from both our sources here in Washington and our sources in the region is, you know, look, U.S. defense and intelligence officials have always seen a potential Russian incursion from Belarus as pretty critical because it offers the Russians this fairly direct path to Kyiv, to the Ukrainian capital. Now, what we have heard from one senior U.S. Senator, Senator Marco Rubio, who is the top Republican on the Senate Intelligence Committee, based on what we're told is based on intelligence briefings that he has received, he sees this incursion from Belarus as a part of Russian planning to try to isolate Kyiv from Ukraine's own forces that are operating in the east of the country, sort of on the eastern flank, butting up against these separatist-controlled regions. A sort of attempt to cut off Kyiv from its own forces, which obviously would be hugely significant. But at this point, you know, what officials are telling us is that, look, we're still largely in the fog of war here. The United States Defense Department and intelligence community is still watching closely, trying to get a sense for how this campaign is going to unfold. You know, the bottom line here is what we have been told from officials sort of from the beginning is that Ukraine is massively outgunned, massively outmanned here. The expectation is not that they're going to be able to repel this this assault. But the question now, I think, for U.S. officials closely tracking this is how much hurt are they going to be able to extract from Moscow? How difficult are they going to be able to make it? What kind of costs are they going to be able to impose as this invasion continues to unfold? We're obviously also hearing from the Ukrainians that they have seen ground incursions from the east and the south as well. So you can expect that the DoD here in Washington and allied forces overseas are going to be closely watching to try to get a sense for what, who, what, how many, where, and how this is all going to continue to unfold.
Katie Bo-Lillis at the Pentagon, appreciate that. I want to go now to the Ukrainian port city of Odessa. Nick Payton-Walsh is standing by there. Nick, give us a sense of what is happening there and also your thoughts on the breadth of this operation. I mean, the Russians, of course, Vladimir Putin was saying it's just to go into the Donbass to support those separatists. It's way bigger than that. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's way bigger than that. It speaks to a mindset of a Kremlin head who is feeling expansionist in ways we haven't seen in Europe in decades. I mean, here we were woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning by 3 or 4 blasts, not in the city centre. As far as you can tell, it's difficult to know where things are detonating in an urban environment like that, but it didn't seem to be here in the city centre at all, near the main port. And there are various sort of military installations around this third largest city in Ukraine, essentially to be sure that it continues to function as Ukraine's main maritime access to the outside world. 6 o'clock, 2 further explosions. We don't know where they were, we don't know what caused them, but it's pretty fair to suggest this is linked to the broader Russian moves across the country. The fact that it is so far south here, this is a Russian-speaking city predominantly, where the Russian general consulate shut down a couple of days ago, shows exactly how wide this is. It is the sort of nightmare situation that when Western intelligence officials first started talking about it, seemed preposterous that Russia would have the resources, the gall to attempt taking over a nation of 40 million. We're not necessarily seeing that scale of occupation, but the initial moves of troops from the north, possibly from Crimea in the south and from the east as well, speak to something much wider than just the Donbass being protected, as Vladimir Putin suggested. I mean, the Donbass is an open interpretation, how big you choose to define that. Importantly, when the separatist republics asked for recognition, Vladimir Putin clarified that he regarded that to be both the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, which is an area pretty much 3 times the size of the area they currently control. So that in itself was a massive increase of what we thought maybe Moscow and the separatist ambition was. But the idea you might be seeing troops coming in from the north and the east, and even indications from Crimea too, would speak to this, and what sounded like a mad idea of Russian troops trying to move through the country, cut off the bulk of Ukraine's military, which is in the east, focused around those separatist areas, and then possibly with that Ukrainian military disabled to the east, have an easier time threatening the capital city of Kiev. But these, when they come out of my mouth, sound like completely absurd ideas that the Russian military has a scope on trying to move into a capital city of nearly 3 million people. So we have to see whether this is a shock and awe type a beginning of a phase, and then we see a bid for requesting concessions from the Ukrainian government. We don't know where we are here, but we do know we've recently seen a Vladimir Putin who clearly has a mindset of intense personal grievances, and just in the speech released last night, warning anybody of outside interference that would bring consequences they hadn't seen in their history. That to me is deeply chilling. We've always been in this debate about, well, Putin, isn't really looking to do the craziest things he can. It's always small little steps here. He doesn't have big, overarching, terrifying schemes for Europe. But we've got an impression today that that might be something we're beginning to see unfold here. Michael?
Yes, and frankly, terrifying comments coming from the Russian president. Nick Payton-Walsh in Odessa, a critical, a strategic city for Ukraine. Appreciate that, Nick. We'll check in with you later. Let's go now to Atika Schubert, who is here in Lviv. And you and I are both here, and we've both been hearing these sirens going off. I think I've counted 8 or 9 separate times now, warning people to stay indoors and to, stay calm as well, according to state television here. What are you hearing about how people are protecting and preparing?
Well, a couple of days ago, we know that the Ukrainian government sent out brochures to people what to do in the event of an emergency, in the event of war. They told people to be ready, stock up on food, water, any cooking gas in case they get cut off. Also make sure they have another source of heating. They asked people to stay at home, but if needed to find out where the closest shelters are as well. Now, we've been hearing those sirens, as you point out, and I've noticed just here on the street, many people going out to get that extra food that was recommended. Saw several families actually come by, kids with their backpacks stuffed. I think it goes to show that people, for a long time just didn't believe this was really going to happen. They've lived with the specter of war here for 8 years now, and this was their worst nightmare. It seems to have finally come true. And so people are now reacting, making sure they have those emergency plans, their bags are packed, but it's still very worrisome, and they're not sure what's going to happen next, Michael.
Yeah, terrifying for people to be in this city in the west of the country and waking up to those sirens and the news that their country is being invaded. Atika, thank you. Atika Schubert there in Lviv, where I am. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, US President Joe Biden, of course, swiftly condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We'll go live to Washington for more on how the US plans to respond. That's when we come back.
King C. Gillette is a complete lineup of tools and facial hair care products. This is the Style Master, designed to style your stubble in one stroke. A pivoting metal head that defines every edge, and 3 comb lengths for added versatility. One tool that helps you choose, change, and master your style. King C. Gillette.
So I had to quit college to help my mom, but I never wanted to quit my dream of a career in IT.
On Coursera, you can earn Google's IT Support Professional Certificate. No prior experience needed to enroll.
My job now is amazing.
Join for free at Coursera.org.
As you get ready for what's next, custom gear from Custom Ink can help make the most of these moments. And we've developed new tools to make it easy for you. Custom Ink has hundreds of products to help you feel connected. Upload your logo or start your design today at customink.com.
What's my safe light story? I see inspiration right through my glass. So when my windshield cracked, I chose Safe Light. They replaced the glass and recalibrated my safety system. That's service I can trust.
Safe Light Repair, Safe Light Replace.
Don't settle for products that give you a sort of white smile. Try Crest Whitening Emulsions for 100% whiter teeth. Its highly active peroxide droplets swipe on in seconds. Better, faster, 100% whiter teeth. Shop CrestWhiteSmile.com.
Can you be free of hair breakage worries? We invited Maho to see for herself that Dove Breakage Remedy gives damaged hair the strength it needs. Even with repeated combing, hair treated with Dove shows 97% less breakage. Strong hair with Dove Breakage Remedy.
#1 beauty brand not tested on animals.
Certified turbocharger, suspension and fuel injection.
Translation? Certified goosebumps.
Certified from headlamp to tailpipe.
That's certified head turns.
And it's all backed by our unlimited mileage warranty.
That means unlimited peace of mind. Mercedes-Benz certified pre-owned. Translation: the Mercedes of your dreams is closer than you think.
Do you struggle with occasional nerve aches in your hands or feet? Try Nervive Nerve Relief from the world's #1 selling nerve care company. Nervive contains alpha-lipoic acid to relieve occasional nerve aches, weakness, and discomfort. Try Nervive Nerve Relief.
Check out this Verbo. Oh man, look at me. Here I am. Right where I belong. It's all I've been looking for and so much more, and now I'm here, now you're here. Nothing can go wrong, 'cause I am right where I belong.
I've
traveled every road in this here land. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man. I breathe the mountain air, man. Of travel I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. I've been to Pittsburgh, Parkersburg, Gravelburg, Colorado, Ellen City, Cedar City, Dodge City, what a pity. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere.
With the timeless protection of ADT, it's safe to say,
you're all set.
With amazing employees like these, it's safe to say, nobody has more experience helping keep you safe than ADT.
How would you describe him?
Alex Jones, the king of conspiracy theories. Go inside his misinformation empire.
It's like a far-right QVC.
CNN talks to those who know him best. The Alex Jones Story, Sunday at 9.
At the exact time as we are gathered in the council seeking peace, Putin delivered a message of war in total disdain for the responsibility of this council. This is a grave emergency.
The American ambassador to the UN there moments after the Russian president announced what he called a, quote, special military operation into Ukraine. Ukrainian officials, of course, are calling it an invasion because that's exactly what it appears it is. Explosions have been reported in cities from near Kyiv, the capital, to Kharkiv and many others in between. Ukraine says military infrastructure is being targeted. CNN obtained exclusive video showing military vehicles entering Ukraine from Belarus in the north of this country in the early hours of the morning. And we also now have video of troops crossing into Ukraine from Crimea in the south. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden condemning the attack as unprovoked and unjustified. He is expected to announce further consequences, quote unquote, for Moscow in the hours ahead. Let's talk about that. Go live to Washington and CNN's Kevin Liptak. The US said that the punishing sanctions, the full weight of sanctions would happen if this happened, this invasion. What are you expecting?
Well, we are expecting sort of the full package to be announced tomorrow. Or we're told that U.S. officials are on the phone tonight with their European counterparts trying to kind of coordinate their response here. The president is also expected to talk to G7 leaders tomorrow morning, mid-morning Washington time, to try and get sort of on the same page on these sanctions. And then he will come out midday tomorrow and lay out what he's planning to do. And what we're told to expect is, again, these sort of swift and severe sanctions that the president had been promising should Vladimir Putin go ahead with this assault in Ukraine. And that includes things like export controls, which would restrict American export of technology to Russia. And that would have sort of a withering effect on things like its military sector. We also expect new sanctions on Russian banks. The president announced sanctions earlier this week on two Russian financial institutions, but this would go after much larger financial institutions and potentially have a much bigger effect. We also expect additional sanctions on members of Vladimir Putin's inner circle. Again, the president sanctioned 3 members of that inner circle earlier this week. He's expected to go after additional members tomorrow, and that will also include members of those people's family. That has been a way that these oligarchs really have avoided sanctions in the past. The U.S. now trying to go after members of their family to try and cut off that escape route, if you will. Those are the sanctions aspects of what the president is expected to announce tomorrow. We also would expect potentially announcements of additional aid to Ukraine. On Monday this week, the president announced he was deploying additional U.S. troops to NATO's eastern flank. He's been very clear that U.S. troops won't be going to Ukraine itself, but that's another area that we expect the president to potentially discuss tomorrow. Now, earlier tonight, the president did speak with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. They got on the phone just before midnight. President Biden, in a statement, said that Zelensky reached out to him to speak. He said that on that call, Zelensky asked me to call on the leaders of the world to speak out clearly against President Putin's flagrant aggression and to stand with people of Ukraine. And now on these sanctions, we should note that the president had initially viewed these as a way to deter President Putin. Clearly, that deterrent effect for these sanctions didn't work out. And now he's viewing these sanctions as more of a punishment against President Putin. The president saying in a statement earlier tonight that the world will hold Russia accountable. Michael.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Western alliance holds together when it comes to how punishing those sanctions are. Kevin Liptak in Washington, appreciate it. Thanks so much. All right, so what could be Russia's next military moves in Ukraine? For that, we're joined by Malcolm Davis. He's a senior analyst for defence strategy and capability at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. He's speaking with us from Canberra, and thanks for doing so. So when you look at the battlefield and where forces are coming in from, what do you see as the most likely strategy militarily to be employed by Russia as these operations continue?
Well, look, I think what you're seeing is the initial air and missile bombardment, lots of footage of cruise missiles hitting targets all over Ukraine, large artillery barrages coming off the Russian-held areas in the east, in the Donbass, in Luhansk and Donetsk. I think the next step would be that Russian forces in that area expand their offensive into Ukrainian-held territory, and that's where you're likely to see intense fighting. And at the same time, you're going to see Russian forces in Belarus advanced south towards Kyiv. And I think that's a key area of axis of advance that we need to focus on. The third area, of course, is the south around Mariupol and potentially an amphibious operation against Odessa as well.
Yeah, some reports that is happening in Mariupol in terms of Marines operating there. Putin says he does not plan to occupy the country. He says that he wants to, quote, demilitarize Ukraine. Do you buy that? And could he hold the country if he wanted to in the bigger sense?
I don't buy that because if he doesn't occupy the country and he withdraws, the Ukrainians will take back Russia's lost gains. So I don't buy into what Putin is saying there. I think certainly he intends to use overwhelming brute force to physically destroy the Ukrainian military through massive artillery and rocket barrages and air power assaults and so forth. But at the end of the day, you only win wars by seizing and holding ground. And so therefore, I think it's highly unlikely that the Russians would go through all of this only to then retreat back into the Donbass. No, I think he will occupy key parts of Ukraine, including potentially going into Kyiv.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Let's talk more about that. I mean, you talked about potential military operations going on in Mariupol on the Sea of Azov, a critical and strategic port for this country. What are the chances then that, and there's also activity in Odessa, what are the chances that he will get his long-desired land bridge from Russia to Crimea, from Mariupol all the way past Crimea and to Odessa? What are the chances he would do that, and what would be the impact of that on Ukraine's ability to even operate economically?
Look, he's going for broke. He's really committing massive amounts of Russian military force to what is a massive invasion of Ukraine with the goal to dismember Ukraine, to remove the democratically elected government, and to put in place a regime that is loyal to Russia. And I have no doubt that he will try to alter territorial borders through brute force as well. So he's not going to pull any punches. You know, he's going to see an opportunity here to create that land bridge from Mariupol all the way through to Odessa. It's possible that Russian forces in that advance could then meet up with Russian forces based in Transnistria in Moldova. And certainly that would then seal off the entire Ukrainian southern coast, leaving the rump Ukraine, perhaps around Lviv, where you are at the moment, as like the remnant of Ukraine. And the challenge then for Putin is that the Ukrainian forces would fight a war of insurgency and resistance against an army of occupation.
My next question, and quick if you will, given the imbalance between the two militaries, what sort of fight do you expect from the Ukrainians now, and do you expect that insurgency to eventuate going forward?
I think the Ukrainians are better prepared than they were in 2014 when Russia invaded and annexed the Crimea and also launched the proxy wars in the Donbass. But they lack the overwhelming firepower of the Russian military today. They lack the air power, they lack the missile power, the electronic warfare, and all of those capabilities that Russia has. So the Ukrainians will fight as best they can. They will force the Russians to pay a price, and then they will switch to insurgency and resistance from the cities and through the countryside and try to raise the cost of any Russian occupation of Ukraine.
Fascinating analysis. Malcolm Davis, thanks so much. Really appreciate it there, joining us from Canberra.
Thank you.
A state of emergency in Ukraine, martial law and air raid sirens as Russia attacks. We're covering all of this live from Ukraine. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Book now at dreamsresorts.com with savings of up to 40%.
Every new day offers opportunities to connect, chances to motivate and inspire, moments to express well-deserved thank yous and congratulations. With products that bring smiles, celebration, and long-lasting impressions, there's certainty in that. 4imprint gives you that certainty with the right promotional products and a caring, trusted team dedicated to your success. Creating meaningful connections starts at 4imprint.com. 4imprint, for certain.
Jamaica.
Best decision ever.
Feel the sand between your toes and the gentle waves of the sea on your skin. Feel the warm Jamaican breeze lift your spirits and nourish your soul. Escape to exactly what makes your heart beat. You will love every moment. Jamaica, heartbeat of the world. Let's go.
Icy hot. Ice works fast. Heat makes it last. Feel the power of contrast therapy, so you can rise from pain. Icy hot.
Because you know I'm all about that game, about that game. Bingo! I'm all about that game, about that game. Millions of players have discovered the world with Bingo Blitz. Download now and enjoy the ride. It's free. I'm all about that game.
As a struggling actor, I need all the breaks that I can get. At Liberty Buchamode.
Cut.
Liberty Bibbity.
Cut. We'll dub it.
Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
It's time to start your own business, to turn your dream into something official. LegalZoom has helped launch and support millions of small businesses. Start an LLC, corporation, or nonprofit with LegalZoom. Let's make it official.
Had enough?
No, arthritis.
Here, Aspirin arthritis.
Huh. Full prescription strength. Reduces inflammation. Thank the gods.
Don't thank them too soon.
Kick pain in the Aspirin.
Get ready for an all-new CNN original series, Nomad with Carlton McCoy.
I wish I had dressed a little nicer.
Educated in some of the world's top kitchens.
I got something out of culinary school, huh?
Master sommelier. And Nomad.
Over time, you become a culmination of your experiences. Thank you. Now, I can't stop moving.
An all-new CNN original series. Nomad with Carlton McCoy starts Sunday, March 13th on CNN.
I know it doesn't seem like it right now, but we are here to help you, Angela.
You think I'm crazy?
Well, sometimes that's how the world is. Most thing you can do is try to make sense of it.
I want to be better.
You okay?
I'm okay.
Gary Yeoman's Ford Ocala Village's grand opening Blue Tag sales event. It's going on right now, and it's being held at all of our locations: Palm Bay, Daytona Beach, and the Pre-Owned Super Center. That's right, big Blue Tag selection, big Blue Tag discounts and rebates. Every vehicle, every location, we're sure to have a vehicle that fits your budget. Get grand opening bank approvals. Blue Tag interest rates as low as 0.9%. That alone can save you up to $10,000. Shop right now at GoYeomans.com and see why Florida says. Go Yeomans!
Union and stop the access of Russian banks to European financial markets. Like with the first package of sanctions, we are closely aligned with our partners and allies, the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, but also, for example, Japan and Australia. These sanctions are designed to take a heavy toll on the Kremlin's interests and their ability to finance war. And we know that millions of Russians do not want war. President Putin is trying to turn the clock back to the times of the Russian Empire. But in doing so, he is putting at risk the future of the Russian people. I call on Russia to immediately stop the violence and to withdraw its troops from Ukraine's territory. We will not let President Putin tear down the security architecture that has given Europe peace and stability over many decades. We will not allow President Putin to replace the rule of law by the rule of force and ruthlessness. He should not underestimate the resolve and strength of our democracies. And history has proven that societies and alliances built on trust and freedom are resilient and successful. And that's exactly what the autocrats fear. The European Union stands with Ukraine and its people. We will continue to support them. Ukraine will prevail. Thank you.
These are among the darkest hours for Europe since the end of World War II. A major nuclear power has attacked a neighbor country and is threatening reprisals of any other states that may come to its rescue. This is not only the greatest violation of international law, it's a violation of the basic principles of human coexistence. It's costing many lives with unknown consequences ahead of us. The European Union will respond in the strongest possible terms. President of the European Council, President Michel, has called for a meeting of the European Council this evening, and they will agree and provide political guidance to adopt the stronger package, the harshest package of sanctions we have ever implemented. As High Representative for the Foreign Affairs and Security Policy of the European Union, I will be in touch with our partners around the world to ensure the international community will be fully grasping the gravity of the moment and to call strongly and united on Russia to cease immediately this behavior, intolerable behavior, and Russian leadership will face unprecedented isolation. This is not a question of blocks. This is not a question of diplomatic power games. It's a matter of life and death. It's about the future of our global community. And we will stand united with our transatlantic partners and with all European nations in defending this position. We stand united in saying that no violence and destruction as means to obtain political gains. We, the European Union, remain the stronger group of nations in the world, and this should not be underestimated. More immediately, we will be designing urgent assistance to Ukraine in this dire situation. We will also be active in supporting evacuation operations, including of our own staff in zones affected by this Russian attack. The European Union, together with transatlantic and like-minded partners, have made unprecedented efforts to achieve a diplomatic solution to the security crisis caused by Russia. But Russia has not reciprocated these efforts and instead has opted unilaterally for a grave and premeditated escalation, conducting to war. President Putin needs to stop this senseless aggression. And today our thoughts are with the people of Ukraine. We will stand with them.
All right, sorry, I'm just hearing there from Ursula von der Leyen, the EU Commissioner, talking about the first package of sanctions, how united the EU is, saying we want to hit Putin's financial ability to wage war. We will not allow him to tear down the security infrastructure that has kept peace for many decades. We stand with Ukrainians. Ukraine will prevail, she said. And then Joseph Borrell, High Representative of the EU for Foreign Affairs, spoke of the darkness of the hour, the grave escalation, and the senseless aggression and the harsh sanctions to come. He said Russia's behaviour was intolerable. We're going to take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we're going to discuss what the human cost could be as a result of this invasion. We'll speak with a human rights activist. That's after the break.
Do I have any hobbies? Oh, you bet I do. I think it's so important to have something that's just for me. You know, I collect things. Dolls, stamps, state secrets, social security numbers, those are good too. But Extra Hop has this network detection and response platform that's really been raining on our parade lately. We think everything's fine, and then, bam! Extra Hop cannot be outsmarted.
We're Carvana, the company who invented car vending machines and buying a car 100% online. Now we've created a brand new way for you to sell your car. Whether it's a year old or a few years old, we want to buy your car. So go to Carvana and enter your license plate, answer a few questions, and our techno wizardry calculates your car's value and gives you a real offer in seconds. When you're ready, we'll come to you, pay you on the spot, and pick up your car. That's it. So ditch the old way of selling your car and say hello to the new way at Carvana.
Fur, you won't faze me. Unlike Zyrtec, Allegra won't make me drowsy.
Allegra starts working 2 times faster than Claritin. So take Allegra before allergy symptoms take over you. And for kids, try allergist-recommended non-drowsy children's Allegra.
Don't settle for products that give you a sort of white smile. Try Crest Whitening Emulsions for 100% whiter teeth. Its highly active peroxide droplets swipe on in seconds. Better, faster, 100% whiter teeth. Shop CrestWhiteSmile.com.
It can be easy to steal your identity. Now, it can be just as easy to help protect yourself. LifeLock helps detect identity threats. If there's a problem, we work to fix it. Go to LifeLock.com.
I'm finally gonna sell my car.
She's finally gonna sell her car!
10th time's the charm.
Was the buyer respectful?
Was he nice?
Well, we haggled over price. But I'm finally gonna sell my car.
He backed out.
Never deal with flaky buyers again.
Vroom bought your car? Yeah, they really came through.
Sell your car entirely online on Vroom.com.
Wasn't me.
you're never responsible for unauthorized purchases on your Discover card.
New episodes of Forensic Files 2 are coming to HLN. More new cases, more new evidence, more justice. Forensic Files 2, Sunday at 10 on HLN.
ED should not stand for expensive drugs. Locally owned Lordoni Discount Pharmacy is now offering a money-saving alternative to Viagra called sildenafil. It's the same active ingredient in Viagra. Lordoni Discount Pharmacy is offering a huge cost savings on the 20-milligram tablet, just $1.99 a pill. A prescription from your doctor is required, and in many cases, Lordoni Discount Pharmacy can contact your doctor for you. Stop by or call Lordoni Discount Pharmacy in Melbourne.
Get up, get moving, and gradually reduce grays the easiest way. Just step into the shower with Control GX, the first and only shampoo that blends away a little gray with every wash for a subtle, natural look. Control GX from Just for Men.
Fur, you won't faze me. Unlike Zyrtec, Allegra won't make me drowsy.
Allegra starts working 2 times faster than Claritin. So take Allegra before allergy symptoms take over you. And for kids, try allergist-recommended non-drowsy children's Allegra.
President Joe Biden's first State of the Union address. Coverage starts Tuesday at 8.
Welcome back to Lviv, Ukraine. I'm Michael Holmes, and we continue to cover Russia's invasion of this country. And the US already warning of a dire refugee crisis in the making, with projections of millions displaced by this Russian attack, potentially. Here's how the US ambassador to the UN put it.
If Russia continues down this path, it could, according to our estimates, create a new refugee crisis, one of the largest facing the world today, with as many as 5 million more people displaced by Russia's war of choice and putting pressure on Ukraine's neighbors. The tidal wave of suffering this war will cause are unthinkable.
And joining me now from Kyiv is Alexandra Matvichuk, who is chair of the Center for Civil Liberties. That is a human rights group. Let's start with the potential refugee crisis that could come out of this latest war. What do you fear?
We expect that if Russia will go further, it will be a huge refugee crisis. We can compare it with 2014 when the war started. We have up to 2 million IDPs. In this situation, it will be much more.
Where do they go? What do they do?
I'm in Kyiv, and a lot of people, active people, stay in Kyiv and will fight for our country and for our city and for our dignity. But people with children, people with elderly parents, people who are scared is very natural, try to leave city.
Yeah, I think many are expected to head here to Lviv, perhaps, or on to Poland. It's going to be an enormous crisis if that happens. You say that Russia uses war crimes as a tool. What types of human rights issues are you preparing for, and what can be done?
Russia will try to find and physically liquidate active people, active civilians. Their target will be journalists, human rights defenders, civil activists, religious and art leaders, volunteers, because they have to physically liquidate active minority who are able for self-organization and resistant to the occupation.
Many more Western sanctions, as we just heard from the European Union, are coming soon, the US as well. So far, though, they did not deter Vladimir Putin. Is there anything that will get him to pull back, or is it too late now?
Now, a lot depends on the immediate reaction of the West, because Putin understands only the force, and the price has to be too high for Kremlin. We as Ukrainian will win. I don't know how my personal story will end, but I have no doubt that Ukraine will stand. but we need time, and West can provide us with this time with their immediate reaction.
All right, Alexandra Matvichuk in Kyiv, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on. And that potential for refugee fleeing this country or fleeing their cities is certainly an enormous potential issue. All right, we continue our live coverage of Russia's military attack on Ukraine. Next up, we will bring you up to speed with the latest developments on the ground.
Can you be free of hair breakage worries? We invited Maho to see for herself that Dove Breakage Remedy gives damaged hair the strength it needs. Even with repeated combing, hair treated with Dove shows 97% less breakage. Strong hair with Dove Breakage Remedy.
#1 beauty brand not tested on animals.
New Vicks Convenience Pack.
DayQuil Severe for you, and Daily Vicks Super C for me.
Vicks Super C is a daily supplement with vitamin C and B vitamins to help energize and replenish. DayQuil Severe is the max-strength daytime coughing power through your day medicine. New from Vicks.
Man, Drive Time makes it easy to buy a ar. You can pretty much do it all on your phone and your own time. I got approved, found tons of cars that I like, and got my personalized financing right here. It's kind of like I'm already at a dealership.
Hey, yeah, you are in a Drive Time dealership.
Hey. Cool. How?
Oh, yeah. Technically, anywhere you are with your phone, you're pretty much in a Drive Time dealership.
Oh, right, because I can basically do it all on my phone. Correct.
Get your down payment, monthly payment, and find the car you need all on your phone.
When you're shopping for a new vehicle, how do you know which brand you can trust? With Subaru, you get Kelley Blue Book's Most Trusted Brand winner 7 years in a row. In fact, Subaru has won Most Trusted Brand for more consecutive years than any other brand. No wonder Kelley Blue Book also picked Subaru as their best overall brand, once again. It's easy to love a brand you can trust. It's easy to love a Subaru.
To be clear, we have never been accused of being flashy, sexy, or lit. May I? We're definitely not lit. I mean, seriously, we named ourselves Booking.com, which is kind of lit if we're talking literal. It's why we're Planet Earth's #1 site for booking accommodation. We love booking stuff. And we're just here to help you make the best of your vacation. Oh, Booking.com. Booking.yeah.
Miscellaneous expenses.
Tax worries. With Tax Act, you file for less and get your maximum refund. You're gonna need this. Oh, other way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Switch to Tax Act and start for free.
Tax Act.
Every year, we try to exercise more, to be more social, to just relax. And eating healthy every single meal? If only it was this easy for us.
Meet Chef Clem, owner of Don't Be Sour, a sourdough donut company. She was flying back from a conference when she got a text. She needed a bigger fridge ASAP if she was going to fulfill her orders. So she used her American Express Business Platinum card to earn more points on the big ticket purchase. She got the new fridge, fulfilled the orders, and with her extra points, she got new equipment that allowed her to expand her business by rolling out a new product. Get the card built for business by American Express.
This Friday, you're invited to a must-see movie event.
Cyrano.
Pleasure to meet you, Cyrano de Bergerac.
Dress accordingly.
Maybe the Duke should have sent you the dress.
I tried it. It's too loose on the bus.
Fight bravely.
How many men did you duel with last night?
110.
And love madly.
Roxanne, my love for you has the strength of Hercules. My love has the strength of Hercules. Got anything better?
Cyrano. Rated PG-13.
I'm always shopping the Real. They drop over 10,000 new arrivals every day.
From luxury brands I'm obsessed with.
Gucci, Rolex,
Prada,
Louis Vuitton,
Hermes,
Cartier, Tiffany. All up to 90% off retail.
And I love that it's been authenticated.
No one else can say all that.
Because no one else does it like the Real.
Thousands of new arrivals daily. Up to 90% off retail. Endless luxury. The Real. Shop now and get 20% off at therealreal.com. Terms apply.
Welcome back to our breaking news coverage. I'm Rosemary Church. An empty airspace over Ukraine as the crisis sharply escalates on the ground. This radar showing no signs of any aircraft after aviation authorities restricted the country's airspace. Russia also issued a notice banning civil aircraft from flight routes along Ukraine's border. Well, Ukrainian officials say attacks from Russian troops have come from Russia, Belarus and Crimea. And you're looking at video now of military vehicles entering Ukraine from a border crossing with Crimea. CNN correspondents have heard explosions in cities across Ukraine, including near Kyiv, Kharkiv and Odessa. Ukraine's defense minister insists that the situation is under control and that Russian troops are suffering losses. Russia, meanwhile, claims it met no resistance from Ukrainian border guards and that it has suppressed Ukraine's air defenses. CNN is unable to independently verify these claims. And we've just learned that Poland, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania have triggered NATO Article 4, meaning they will consult with each other over security concerns. Well, as the Ukrainian president urged residents to be calm, a poignant scene unfolded at Kharkiv's main square. And CNN anchor Don Lemon spoke to senior international correspondent Clarissa Ward about what happened.
Clarissa, you are witnessing something that is taking place right in front of your very eyes on the streets. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I think this, Don, really speaks to the sort of desperation of this moment. We just see a small group of people, and I'm hoping you can see them on our shot here. A small group of people have gathered in the main square, and they are kneeling and praying. Because right now there is truly a sense of having no idea what is coming down the pipeline, what is in store for the people of Ukraine in the coming hours and the coming days. And it's freezing cold here. So to see these people kneeling on the cold stone in prayer is honestly, it's very moving, Don. And I think it speaks to the state of ordinary Ukrainians here who have done absolutely nothing to deserve this, who have no quarrel with Russia, who have no desire for war or conflict, who are not engaged with the geopolitics underpinning all of this, and yet who will ultimately be the ones to bear the brunt of, as what Matthew called it, this multi-pronged major attack by one of the world's most sophisticated militaries on a sovereign, independent nation.
And we thank you for watching. I'm Rosemary Church. Michael Holmes will rejoin me with our breaking news live from Ukraine in just a moment. You're watching CNN.
Thanks for coming. Now, when it comes to a financial plan, this broker is your man. Let's open your binders to page 188.
Carl, are there different planning options in here?
Options?
Plans we can build on our own or with help from a financial consultant, like Schwab does.
Can we adjust our plan? Yeah, like if we buy a new house.
And our son just started working.
Do you offer a complimentary retirement plan for him?
As in free?
Just like Schwab.
Schwab.
Look forward to planning with Schwab.
I swear I lived.
Maybe we missed the sign for the highway.
We didn't miss the sign. Where are we? So you're telling me I'm in a mystical town. I can't leave.
These woods are not safe after dark.
I can still hear those things whispering. We are stuck.
I'm gonna find us a way out of this place.
I need new struts for my 2010 Chevy. Let me see struts by AC Delco, KYB, and any under $50.
We might be able to get some struts from the warehouse.
Why watch the counterman tap on his computer and hope he chooses the right part? Go to rockauto.com. Auto and body parts from hundreds of manufacturers. Choose the brands, prices, and features you want. Auto parts at the lowest price. Conveniently delivered to your home or business.
All the parts your car will ever need, Rock Auto.
With the timeless protection of ADT, it's safe to say,
hey Google, unlock the front door.
when you've helped save more lives than any other home security brand, it's safe to say there's a reason millions of people trust ADT to help protect what matters most.
Let's get started. Bill, where's your mask?
I really tried sleeping with it, everybody, but I'm done struggling. Now I sleep with Inspire.
Inspire?
Inspire is a sleep apnea treatment that works inside my body with just a click of this button.
A button? No mask? No hose?
Just sleep.
Yeah, but you need the hose, you need the air, you need the...
Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation. Learn more at inspiresleep.com.
CNN is in Ukraine and in Russia.
Nothing more from the Kremlin.
On the front lines.
Every night there's fighting once it gets dark.
We're covering this from all around the world.
This
is CNN.
When you switch to Spectrum Mobile, you get unlimited for $29.99 a month per line for 2 or more lines. That means unlimited nationwide 5G and the most reliable service coast to coast, all for $29.99. But do people really want that? Oh, yeah. Should I jump on, take a couple?
Yeah, are you trained?
No, but I have a lovely phone voice.
I don't think that counts.
Fair enough. Join the millions who have already switched. Get unlimited data for only $29.99. Call, click, or visit a Spectrum store today.
Get up, get moving, and gradually reduce grays the easiest way. Just step into the shower with Control GX, the first and only shampoo that blends away a little gray with every wash for a subtle, natural look. Control GX from Just for Men.
Fur, you won't faze me. Unlike Zyrtec, Allegra won't make me drowsy.
Allegra starts working 2 times faster than Claritin. So take Allegra before allergy symptoms take over you. And for kids, try allergist-recommended non-drowsy children's Allegra.